Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was stronger than Kakashi Chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by PHOENIXMOON 191 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Naruto's POV. God damn, I was pissed. I just kicked to the curb by my own sensei and now he was trying to pawn me off to this other sensei. Yeah right. This was just a load of crap and I was having enough of this. No, I won't take him as my sensei. I stated looking at him with a neutral look. The two that were smiling before blinked as shock filled their faces. They were being nice and I just threw it back at them. Naruto, you need someone to train you. Your basics aren't good and they need to improve. Like I said, Ibisu is one of the best teachers to teach you those. Much better than I can. Kakashi stated and I just laughed, but neither of them liked that laugh. Right, the basics? I can do basics. You on the other hand don't care. Let me guess, the council told you to train the Uchiha and forget your other students. No wait, I don't really care. Go train the team, not like that's going to change anything. The bitch will still go to the first person to hand her power. I stated with some slight malice in my voice and Kakashi's face just dropped, but he didn't say anything in reply. I got my answer. Naruto-san, that's not Ibisu started, but I just waved him off before turning around and I started to walk. Don't care. Now if you would excuse me. I need to go do my own training by myself. I think it will be more productive if I do that. After all, I haven't learned anything at all from anyone before, why should now be any different? I stated as I could hear one of them try to stop me from going anywhere. I made a few hand signs quickly and not seen. I felt my body move and switch with something. Normal POV. What did the dope all pissed? A mid-back-length black-haired female said as she came from further in the hospital. The two jonin didn't move as they just stared at the spot that Naruto was just in a few seconds ago. Neither seemed to speak up for a few seconds. Kakashi didn't look it, but he was pained by what Naruto just said and felt like this was the first time that Naruto had actually acted on any emotions outside what he normally portrayed. The tone in Naruto's voice was pained, hurt and above all, angry. He knew that he really didn't train any of them. He always thought he would make a good teacher, but this just made things painfully obvious. He wasn't. This just made a bunch of things clearer for him as well when it came to things that he didn't realize before. How delusional he has been to think that everything was alright in the world. In his own pain and sorrow, he had lost track of things around him. Naruto, he should have been around him from the moment that he was born. Instead he ditched the kid and was never around him. What had Naruto truly gone through that no one realized? He just bottled up his emotions, that much was obvious from the outburst right now. How could he think that Naruto was fine when he never truly met the kid? 12, almost 13 years now, he had never sat down and talked to the kid. What the hell had he been doing? Apparently nothing but almost getting his team killed on their last major mission. That they were bright enough and intuitive enough that they would be able to grow without his intervention. When did he become so arrogant to believe that just because of who their parents were, that they would grow strong enough and independent without his attention? Yo, sensei. What the hell is going on? The black-haired teen stated coolly but with annoyance in her voice. It seemed that she was getting annoyed by being ignored by her sensei of all people. Not her fault that she wasn't here for when the dope freaked out. Meet me at this location, Sayori, sometime this afternoon. I need to go get some things for your training. Kakashi said with a neutral tone which made Sayori raise an eyebrow. There was no confidence in his voice nor anything. What the hell happened between Naruto and Kakashi that would leave the man like this? Before she could ask though, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sayori looked at where Ibisu to get an answer, but the man walked away. He was no longer needed. Whatever, it's not my problem. I don't care what happens to that idiot. Sayori stated looking at the paper Kakashi handed her before heading out to get some things before heading towards the location. First person POV. I walked down an alleyway after I substituted with a log. I headed for the Hokage's tower. I just need to see if the Hokage had any pointers or some scrolls I could have. I personally wanted to see Ceiling. After all, if Ceiling could keep a Kyuubi at bay, it could do anything. I finally made it to the Hokage tower and I walked inside. I didn't even wait for the Hokage's assistant to let me in. Hell, I never did in the first place, but I didn't care now with how angry I was. Gigi. I yelled as I entered the room and I looked to see the two old crones that used to be the teammates to the old Hokage. They glared at me and I knew what they were thinking. Hey, stop glaring. I wouldn't be here if you assholes didn't force Kakashi to train the Uchiha bitch. I just came to ask Gigi for a couple of things and then I will get lost like you want me to. I stated as the older two looked from me to Sarutobi. They could all see the anger in my expressions, not that I realized it, mind you. We'll come back in a couple of minutes, Sarutobi. Call us when you are done. The man of the two said before the two left. Well, I didn't know it, they didn't want me to go ballistic, and what I was going through was a bigger priority towards Konoha's safety than what they were talking about. I walked up to the Hokage from the other side of the desk, and the Hokage sighed. Naruto, couldn't you be a little nicer when you see them? They are the elders of the village after all. Sarutobi stated with an elderly tone, trying to at least get rid of some of my anger, and I huffed, looking away. So, what did you need that you felt it to barrage into my office screaming? I need some scrolls and some books to train with. Some high-level things that a teacher would be able to give me with training. I stated, and the Hokage raised an eye before shrugging, thinking that I wanted to train by myself. He wondered why I needed it, but he wasn't going to intrude that much. Still had to figure out why while placating me to some level, given how angry I must look. Okay, what do you want to train in? I can only give these to you, but I can't help you with learning anything from them. Sarutobi stated, and I nodding, telling him I understood. After all, a Hokage can't give help and show that he treats someone better than the another in terms of teaching someone. He could give me some help though, given what I am, but he couldn't show it openly. I need books on all levels of sealing, some Futon, Raiden and Suiton Jutsu scrolls, and a Taijutsu style scroll up to intermediate level. I stated, and the Hokage nodded, going to get them before doing a double take. Naruto, I can't give you sealing books of all levels. Sealing is a completely dangerous style of jutsu. One wrong move can get you killed. Sarutobi stated with concern, which made some of my anger go away, but not all of it, but I just brushed it off. I can already make Kabaku Futa and twice as good as the ones that we can buy. I also know how to make one battle Kekai seal that will make a lot of Kabaku Futa explode, called the Kekai Hajin. I just want to go further into the studies of sealing. After all, if it can seal the Kyuubi, it can do a lot more. I stated with finality and neutrality. Sarutobi looked at me. He had a feeling of nostalgia as he looked at me. A smile broke his neutral and worried face. I remember when Minato came in here after Kushina showed him one of her seals. He came in here begging me for books to learn. If Naruto is anything like his parents, he could become even better Fuin masters than they were. Sarutobi thought of the past. Okay Naruto, I trust you. Show me what you have learned when you show up for the finals. Sarutobi stated as he collected the things I asked for. He handed them to me and I realized that he gave me a dusty old journal. It had a red swirl in the middle and fire red flames around the border. Gigi, why did you give me a ratty old journal? I wanted something that would help me train, not read in my pastime. Are you messing with me? I stated with a glare in my eyes as it was something that annoyed me. Why did the Hokage have to mess with me during this time? Was he just pretending to help me? Now Naruto. That journal is everything you're going to need to get through the exam. Whether it will be of good use is up to you. The old man said with a mysterious smile. It was a smile that made me feel like he was keeping a secret or getting around one. How will this help me? I couldn't help but ask as I put it into my ninja pouch, still confused why he gave it to me. How was someone's journal going to help him? I wasn't going to judge the old man before I got an answer. He never gave me a reason to not trust him before. I knew he was hiding a lot of things from me about my situation, but I didn't hold that against him. He had his reasons even if they might be bad ones. That Naruto is the personal journal of two people who are people of interest to you. Two people I should have had the courage to tell you about after the situation that held me back from telling you subsided. There are jutsu and other things in there that are crucial towards where you came from and some other things. Sarutobi said with a regretful face and my eyes lit up. Was this what I thought it was? What did you mean by that, Gigi? Why did you not have the courage to tell me after whatever happened subsided? Curiousness and confusion overrode my anger on this. If this was anything like I thought it was, my parents were always a sensitive subject with me. When you were born, things concerning you was a sensitive subject. If things had become known one way or another, Konoha would not have been able to protect you at its current state that it was in back then. We returned to a stable state 5 years after your birth. After that much time though, I realized how much anger you had. The Sandaime stated, making my eyes widen. I was about to retort about this, but he silenced me with a raise of my hand. I have been around you the most, Naruto. I basically raised you not as a Hokage, but as a grandfather. I know what I see, but that is where I lost all my courage to tell you. The Sandaime stated with a tired and pained tone. I just listened. I would listen and then think. I saw the anger you had towards everyone, to Konoha. I wasn't able to stop people from mistreating you, from destroying your childhood which you should have lived carefree. All I could do was make a law so that maybe the kids your age could be there for you. Even that failed. I was scared about what might happen if you knew the full truth. Would you change? Would that bright child that I ate ramen with and talked to every day be lost forever? Thinking about those questions made me keep everything inside. I have made many mistakes in my life, Naruto, many I can never fix. I however can do this for you now. Whatever you choose to do once you read this, I will support. I will leave this decision to you, and whatever path you take after, learn everything, you decide for yourself. Think about it for now, and I will find out what you decide during the chunin exam finals. Sarutobi stated, putting everything he still had on the desk out towards me. I nodded this before staring at the book in front of me. It held all the answers I needed, well before it brought about more questions, I was sure. I grabbed all the stuff before bowing and walking out. The Sandaime was being truthful with him and was allowing him to make his own decision on the matter without speaking out his own opinion. He would check the book for tampering later, but for now, he had reached a calm. A tempered anger of sorts. I just shut the door behind me quietly. I hope you don't resent Konoha after you read that Naruto. I guess I'll find your answer out in a month. Sarutobi went back towards his desk to do his work and to continue the meeting he had with his old teammates before I jumped into the room. With me, on the other hand, I was just walking down the street with a book in front of me. The Sandaime had given me the things I needed to train. I doubt it would do much, and I wondered if I could even understand the things he gave me. I don't know how I should feel about all this. It was confusing, and I could finally know about things that I have wanted to know for so long. Who am I? Who are my parents? Did they love me or just abandon me? Why was I given this burden, and why was it me of all people? Sadly, I didn't get much time to think on the subject as I bumped into the last person I wanted to meet. It was Sayuri, the one person that stole Kakashi away from actually training me. Did she though? Kakashi never did anything for me in the first place. Still, she just seems to get everything and not even care about it. She is a fishnet shirt, and over it is a long collared short dress that goes farther down on the left than the right, making a diagonal line. The collar isn't down, but up, hiding the back of her neck and sides, and the dress isn't together near the front, her neck showing some cleavage of her C-cup breasts. She has a brown belt around her waist with her equipment pouch attached to it in the back. Sayuri is wearing fishnet shorts covering her not see-able panties under the dress, and another light blue bed around her waist, going diagonally from the left down to the right upper thigh. She is wearing fingerless gloves with metal guards on the back of the hands like Kakashi's. On the right thigh, a kunai and shuriken quick grab pouch with wrap holding it to the thigh. Around the knees are some fishnet-like knee braces, though they are just there for style really. She also is wearing just regular, slightly longer shinobi sandals that go over the ankle and up some of the legs. I didn't even know what to make of this situation, even when he found out. Apparently Sayuri, who I thought was a guy, turned out to be a girl in hiding. The bitch had been lying to everyone and didn't even care what people thought. All she cared about was her brother and her revenge for what he did. "Watch where you're going, idiot," she sneered at me. I was not in the mood for any of this. Her whole situation made me confused, anger and annoyed all at the same time. I was already dealing with my own problems just to have her make an appearance brought up thoughts on her and the fact she lied to me. Did she though? What the hell did I even know about her? I called her my friend and rival, yet they never talked or hung out. I bet I don't even matter in her eyes. She certainly didn't seem to care what I thought about anything. It was just another reminder that I was alone, with no one to have fun with or hang out with. The Hokage, Iruka and the raiment stand owners were all closer to family. I wasn't alone, but I never did anything with people outside of them. All I did was train. No wait, I wasn't alone, but I am extremely lonely. Having no one to play or hang out with people made me lonely. It seemed that nothing really changed that much. I was still neck deep in that darkness called loneliness. "Whatever, leave me alone," I muttered out before brushing past her. My bangs were covering my eyes. My life was still hell. I didn't really have a life if I only had 4 people that actually cared about my existence. Strange how I didn't realize this till now. Hell no, dope. You ran into me and now you're having a pity party because Kakashi isn't training, Y Sayuri stated, but yelled as I smashed her into a wall. Sayuri opened up her eyes and was about to say something when slitted red eyes stared back at her with anger basically rolling off me. The words didn't even reach her lips. "It seems that you're really the same no matter what form you take, princess. You really don't care about anyone but yourself. You lost everything, how fucking sad for you. I never had anyone and I'm grateful even 4 people care about my existence. Go enjoy your special training with your lapdog. It's not going to do anything for you since you will just betray everyone for the first person that says anything towards helping kill you, brother. I bet you would leave me and the pink-haired monkey to our fates if it meant you can kill your brother. You think the world revolves around you. You're nothing but a stuck-up princess. To think I thought you were my friend. Pathetic. Enjoy your paltry life, princess." I growled out, pushing her slightly into the wall and let go. I know the. I just walk away while Sayuri falls to her knees and shakes slightly. She felt like I was going to kill her, that I would have ripped her to shreds in an instant. She only wondered what had happened to me while she tries to calm herself from the massive killing intent she just felt. I didn't even care enough to notice. Chapter 2. The blonde-haired woman sat hunched over a bar table with one hand holding her head up while holding a drink in her left. She looked absolutely drunk though despite her continued drinking, didn't seem to get drunker. She was wearing mostly green and her haori has gamble on the back. Tsunade-sama, a black-haired woman wearing a kimono, yelled out to the blonde as she walked up. The blonde-haired woman glanced at her before going back to her drink. "I finally find you. I thought I told you not to run off like that. What if something happens while I'm gone?" "I can take care of myself, Shizune," Tsunade said with a slight slur in her voice. The black-haired woman, Shizune, put her hands on her hips and gave her a slight glare. It seemed that Shizune was thinking something else entirely when Tsunade said that. "Oh, well, no offense Tsunade-sama, but when was the last time you actually trained?" Shizune asked with a respectful but curt tone. Tsunade stopped for a second and seemed to blush at the thought. It seemed that Shizune was right in that because it seemed like it had been a really long time since she had trained. "Shut up, I'm fine even if I haven't trained," Tsunade said with defiance of the thought. She was one of the Sannin. She didn't have to train, right? "You haven't trained in around a decade since we left the village, have you?" Shizune asked blandly at the thought and Tsunade just blushed in embarrassment even more, to which she gulped down another drink. She couldn't believe her master sometimes. "What would happen and I'm not around? Look at what happened a month ago. The Raikage of all people found us. We were just lucky that he was only there to ask you to heal one of his men and not there to collect the massive bounty you have on your head," Shizune exclaimed, making Tsunade tilt her head down as Shizune had been right. She trusted Shizune to be able to handle everything and maybe overestimate her strength a little while she wallowed in her own self-pity. Shizune was strong in her own right, she made her that way, but she wasn't strong enough to fight S-rank or higher rank opponents. Add into the fact that Tsunade had hemophobia and she really wouldn't be able to fight. Shizune would be the only one to be able to fight and she was more a medical specialist than a fighter. She could handle around 1 or 2 low-ranked jonin, but not the people that would be coming after her. Luckily her name was the only reason everyone stayed away from her and didn't come to claim her head. It was nice for her because she was left alone and didn't have to worry about anything. It was just her, Shizune, and her sake. It was nice not to really have to worry about anything that she had to deal with before. "Well, this isn't good. We can't have you being seen as weak. It's just going to be harder for me to protect you if people think they can beat you. All you've actually done is make the yin seal, and while that thing is amazing, it does nothing to help me." Shizune whined out, and while she normally wouldn't do this, she had been being especially careful over the years and now hearing this, well, she kind of lost her head. "Well, I guess I should train, can't have the younger generation getting better than me anytime soon," Tsunade said as she did feel like she should train. Training always got your mind off of things and concentrated on other things. She also didn't want some loser to be the one to claim her head. That would just look back, especially if she got beat by another but weaker medical specialist. Somewhere in Konoha, Kabuto sneezed. He had a feeling someone was calling him weak but just shrugged before going back to collecting data. "Great, then we can also work on getting hemophobia," Shizune said in a cheerful tone as she looked perky. At the mere mentioning of her hemophobia, Tsunade became instantly sober and she froze in fear. There was no talking Shizune out of something she set out to work on. She did get her stubbornness after all. "But no, please don't, Shizune," Tsunade said, scared as she didn't want to go near blood. It made her remember really bad things and something she didn't want to do. Shizune, however, was going to hear none of that. "Oh no, you don't. It's unbecoming for someone of your stature and renown to be scared of blood. If my uncle and your brother were here, they would do the same thing as I'm going to do for you," Shizune said with a nod of her head, and Tsunade gulped at this. "How are you going to do that?" She had to ask with a stutter, which was probably the worst thing she could do. She would not like any of the ideas, that was for sure, and it would be on her mind until she actually started with her sick plan. Curing phobias were never easy. "Well, I made plans to have you sit in on surgeries for the next 2 weeks. When you can stand the sight of blood, the week after we'll be going to blood banks and buying some to get you used to having it on you again. A medic can never be afraid of blood. We can't heal anyone if we did." "What if he?" Shizune said with a matter of fact and with a chipper tone. "Don't bring him up," Tsunade said with a growl as she thought of the little boy she left. She didn't want to think about it as it hurt her just as much. "Okay, but it's time to go." Tsunade paled and was about to bolt when Shizune grabbed the back of Tsunade's collar and started to drag her. "There's no better time to start like now. Let's go to the nearest hospital," Shizune said as she continued to drag the shivering women. She should have never taught Shizune her the chakra strengthen technique, even if she rarely used it in combat. "But Naruto. How the fuck am I supposed to understand this?" Naruto screamed out as he groaned in annoyance as he looked at the 4th journal. Yes, the 4th journal. Did the yondaime really have to really think someone could actually understand this mumbo-jumbo? It seemed that the yondaime had written out everything in complex math as well as in words. Being who he was, all of it went completely over his head. Everything the man wrote was something that Sakura or Shikamaru would understand. What was with the Hokage? Naruto had also learned that the yondaime had a really bad names for his jutsu. They were either way too long or made no sense with what the jutsu actually did. The only saving grace was that the yondaime drew pictures of what he was talking about, so he had some idea as to what was going on while he tried to piece together what he was writing about. The man wrote like he was trying to have an intellectual conversation with someone else. Why the hell couldn't he explain something towards a normal person? These were the thoughts that he was having after reading the whole thing from front to back. The journal was only half the actual book. Most of the yondaime's jutsu were in the back. While he was interested in the jutsu, he was more interested in the man's life. The sandaime said this journal was about two people he had been wanting to know about. At first he could only hope, and then when he started to read it, he was amazed that it was the fourth journal. He read further into it trying to get an idea about the man's personality. The yondaime then got into talking about this beautiful woman named Uzumaki Kushina, and Naruto's heart skipped a bit. Maybe that woman was his mother or relative. As he got more and more engrossed into the yondaime's journal, he heart-wrenched. He had learned a couple of things about who he was and if he had any family. He was slightly horrified by what he found out and shivered at the implications of some things. He found out that his father was the yondaime and this Kushina was indeed his mother. He was happy to hear that both of his parents loved him and were happy to know that they were excited to raise him. To know that felt like something missing had finally been filled in his heart. That still didn't make him feel better. His father had been the one to seal the Kyuubi inside of him. He didn't know how he felt to know that his father was the one that condemned him to this life. Naruto knew that it couldn't be helped, but it didn't change the fact that his father was the one to do it. He also found out that his mother was the former Jinchuriki. He now had even more question than he did before, and it made him wonder what had happened that night. He pushed that from his mind right now because he would ask the old man after the chunin exams. He also wanted to know who this Jiraiya was. The man was apparently his godfather. Why hadn't the man taken care of him and why hadn't he been here for him? Did the yondaime mean nothing to him or was it something else? Naruto hated himself sometimes because it was easier to just be angry at people, but he always gave someone the chance to explain themselves. It was like with that old lady that used to take care of him. He really doesn't remember her that much, but he had called her mother at one point. She disappeared around his 4th or 5th birthday. He tended to not think about it or even try to remember. He barely could remember anything from that age anyways, but it was nice to know someone at least looked after him. Alright, no more thinking about sad things or the past. Naruto said to himself as he slapped his face as he went back to the journal. The chunin exams were the first thing that he should be thinking about. It was the immediate problem after all. He flipped through the pages to see if there were any jutsu that he could find that were useful and that he could figure out himself. The taijutsu was easy to figure out as he just had to look at the book and practice the stances that were shown with diagrams. The ninjutsu was the difficult part as they were written down to the letter and with words that he couldn't understand. He found one that seemed simple enough when he looked at it. All it was, by what he could tell, was a pure chakra technique similar to Kawarimi. Shunshin. Naruto said as he mouthed the syllables of the word. Where had he heard the name of that jutsu before? Wasn't it the thing that the jonin used, but it was more of a speed technique, wasn't it? It seemed like an interesting technique, but it seemed like the person could only move in one direction. Wouldn't that make the technique useless? If someone could track your movement, then wouldn't they be able to predict where you were going to land? Maybe Naruto could make a technique based on this one. Like something that involved chakra more and was just a little slower. Shunshin had something that happened to the eyes of the user because of the speed. He needed special eyes like Sayori to be able to predict everything. Stupid Uchiha and their fancy taijutsu. Wait, maybe he could make a fake couple of the Sharingan's prediction ability. Problem is, how am I going to do that? Naruto thought for a second before looking down to the things sitting in front of him on the ground. One thing caught his eye in particular. Wait, if Yuinjutsu could something as cool as sealing the Kyuubi, it could do what I wanted. That'll so that bitch Sayori. Speaking of Sayori, maybe he was a little hard on her when he saw her the other day. He kind of freaked out on her. He should apologize to her or something. He kind of felt bad for yelling at her like that. Nah, the asshole deserved it. I did nothing wrong. Naruto said after thinking about it. He didn't do anything but speak the truth. It wasn't his fault that she went off on him for just bumping into her. She was the one that started to make fun of him and he wasn't in the best of moods in the first place. He was done taking shit from everyone and being the nice guy afterwards. Those times were over, but that didn't mean he was going to be mean about it. Alright, time to get started. Naruto said to himself as he jumped up. He had the first few things he needed to work on. The question was, which one did he want to start with? That was definitely a hard one, but Naruto just smirked after a few seconds. I'll start with Shunshin. The other two things should be too hard to master. Oh how he was wrong. Oh so wrong. 3 days later. Naruto stood outside of a large house near the forest. He didn't know why he was really here, but the person he was looking for was probably one of the smartest people he knew. The reason why he wasn't sure was because he didn't know if said person was going to help him. Naruto knocked on the door and to his surprise, the person he was looking for came to the door. Wow, I'm surprised you're up, Shikamaru. Naruto stated to the bored and tired-looking teen that used to be one of his classmates. Shikamaru just stared at him. What do you want, Naruto? I'm busy training even if I don't want to. Shikamaru stated with a bored tone while muttering troublesome after his sentence. Naruto deflated slightly at this, but it was unnoticeable by Shikamaru, even if the boy was sharp. Well, I came to ask if you would help me with this jutsu. I can't understand the wording right. I don't want to mess up. Naruto stated with a hopeful tone that Shikamaru recognized this time. Why would Naruto be coming to him to help with a jutsu and not his sensei? Naruto, why didn't you just go ask Kakashi sensei? Shikamaru asked, and all trace of happiness left Naruto's face rather fast and he looked away. But sensei. Naruto stated with a growl and Shikamaru's eyes narrowed at this. He wasn't about to pry though as there was something going on and he didn't want to upset Naruto more than he already was. After all, he was only here to make sense of the wording for his technique. Alright, I'll help. Come to the living room and I can take some time helping you. Just the wording though. This is all so troublesome. Shikamaru stated with a sigh as he rubbed his head as he brought Naruto inside before heading to the living room. Almost immediately as they sat down, Naruto shoved an open journal into his hands. Shikamaru grumped before looking at the wording and sighed. It was pretty normal, but for Naruto, it was probably harder since it dealt more with the intricacies of the technique more than anything else. Shikamaru looked at the technique name and blinked. The Rasengan. Why was Naruto learning that? Naruto, who did you get this from? Shikamaru had to ask as he knew this was the technique of the fourth Hokage. Did. Naruto said with a clueless expression and Shikamaru sighed but was still wondering why the old Hokage would give Naruto this technique. He wasn't however going to question his leader on it though. Well, the technique is quite simple in terms of process, though I doubt it's easy to actually do. The first step is rotation. You have to use your chakra and move it in multiple ways to form a ball. A grinding motion of sorts since chakra is moving all over the place in different directions. The second step deals with power more than anything. Moving chakra all over the place isn't going to do that much damage, but if you increase the amount of chakra in the technique, in theory it will do more damage to the weight of the technique. It needs to be destructive as well as moving. The movement and the power will deal a lot of damage. The third step is to compress the technique. In layman's terms that you will be able to understand is that you basically have to hold it in a stable form. Picture a ball of chakra in your hand and that's what it will be like. All the power and movement in one small form so to speak. Understand? Shikamaru said with a bored tone. It wasn't that hard to figure out, but he knew that he would never be able to master the technique. He doubted Naruto would. Thanks. It makes much more sense. So I need to rotate my chakra in different direction before adding more to power it up and then hold it in a stable form. Naruto said to himself more than Shikamaru before nodding. Yosh, thanks man. That was really helpful. Shikamaru just nodded back while yawning. Naruto took the journal back and put it in his ninja pouch. He then had a feeling to ask something. Hey Shikamaru, are we friends? Naruto asked with a slight sign of worry in his voice and Shikamaru just looked at him. It was easy that Naruto was waiting for an answer. Shikamaru wasn't about to lie to him though. Well, we're more of comrades, Naruto. Associates. We really haven't hung out and we only skipped class together. So I wouldn't really call us friends. Shikamaru stated with a bored tone and had closed his eyes. Naruto's bangs were covered and he stood up. Shikamaru blinked his eyes open at this as Naruto seemed to move out of the room. When Shikamaru looked at Naruto's back, it felt incredibly small. Naruto had never felt small before. He was always there even if you didn't want to see him. Thanks Shikamaru for all the help. Naruto stated as he looked over his shoulder with a smile before walking out of the house. His heart hurt because it just was another reminder of him having no one really. A small inconsistent life that really had nothing going for him and no one to really care for. Shikamaru just stared at the spot Naruto had been in just a second ago. That was not the Naruto he knew. That smile was not real, like he was hiding something behind that smile. He was confused and it showed him that he knew nothing about Naruto. Something was going on inside him and to Shikamaru, he didn't know what would happen to the blonde. Why was he asking if they were friends as well? The whole thing seemed strange. Shikamaru, was that Naruto? Did something happen because he didn't seem right? Another male came into the room and asked with interest. Does Naruto have any friends? Shikamaru asked with a neutral tone and Shikaku looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Aren't you his friend? You guys got along really well and did stuff together all the time when you were younger. Shikaku was confused as he said this. I don't really know. It was strange for him to ask me and I really didn't know how to respond. Shikamaru stated with a confused tone. Well, he really doesn't. Due to some circumstances, I can probably count on my hands how many people he's actually around all the time. Shikaku stated, making Shikamaru go wide-eyed. That is Naruto happy? Shikamaru asked with a serious tone which caught the older of the two by surprise. He always seems happy. Why? Because I don't think he really is. Shikamaru stated with a mutter as he had a feeling that he just made things worse for the blonde. Hopefully he could take to the blonde sometime over the month. Chapter 3. Old man, what the hell is going on? I thought you said you were going to arrange a meeting with Naruto and I. A white-haired man wearing a kabuki outfit stated with rather loud annoyance. Sarutobi sat behind his desk with a sigh as he was smoking his pipe. I had asked Kakashi to arrange something, but he decided to make it so Naruto would see a glimpse of your strength by having Ibisu train him in a location that you're normally at. You were supposed to be doing something and Ibisu attacked you under said conditions. Naruto however reacted badly to this. Sarutobi stated with a sigh as the white-haired man narrowed his eyes. Why would Naruto react badly to another trainer? By what you have told me, he was living a good life. He's still under his caretaker, I take it. The white-haired man said with a thoughtful tone, to which Sarutobi flinched a little as this was not going to be fun explaining. Sit down, Jiraiya. I have some things to confess. Sarutobi stated to his white-haired student, whose eyes narrowed at the implications of that statement. I think I will stand, Sarutobi-sensei. Jiraiya growled out as his anger started to increase. He would wait though for an answer to everything. Sarutobi sighed as he saw that Jiraiya wasn't in the mood anymore. All sense of a friendly conversation had left. I have lied to you. Sarutobi stated with a serious tone and that made Jiraiya's stance tighten. Naruto has not had a caretaker since the age of 4. I felt that for the betterment of the village, it would be better if Naruto stayed here in my watch and you to collect information on outside threats. You used me? How the hell could you do this? Naruto is Minato's child, for God's sake. Jiraiya yelled out at the thought of what Sarutobi was telling him. He couldn't believe that his sensei was doing something like this behind his back. He should have actually came back and saw for himself what was going on than listening to the words of his sensei. I have already admitted my faults to Naruto and apologized. I gave him everything he should have known from the beginning. I have decided to let Naruto make his own mind up about what he should do now that the truth is out. Sarutobi stated, to which Jiraiya calmed down a little but not much. You kept from him his parents as well. You lied to me that Naruto was okay. I trusted you thinking that you would be able to take care of Naruto. I already know I wasn't in the right of mind to raise him, but I would have done a better job than this. What else happened? Jiraiya asked, wanting to know what was going on exactly. Well, outside of the fact that Naruto being the Jinchuriki being the least kept secret in the whole village and Naruto having issues I didn't know about. Nothing really other than Orochimaru being after the female heir of the Uchiha. Sarutobi said with a neutral tone and Jiraiya just stared for a couple of minutes. How the hell did the village find out about Naruto being the Jinchuriki? Only you and 2 other Anbu actually know what happened that night. It would have been easy to keep it hidden. Jiraiya asked with an accusing tone, and this is where Sarutobi rubbed his head in thought. I'm not totally sure how the village found out. I had told the village elders as they have a right to know and the Jonin commander at the time with the Anbu commander. One of those 5 people had leaked the information, but with no proof, Sarutobi stated with an annoyed tone, and Jiraiya nodded at this. He could at least understand this rather than being ignorant of how the village would react if everyone knew. You can't arrest anyone. Do you think it was Danzo? Jiraiya stated as he could at least forgive Sarutobi of this fault. Even if Naruto was Minato's kid, they had to take some measures to ensure that nothing happened if the Kyuubi acted up. It was most likely him, but again, I have no proof. He hid his tracks rather well. He had showed signs of wanting to train Naruto since a young age, and I told him no. The least I could do for Naruto to have a normal life was create a law that no one could speak about it. Sarutobi stated, to which Jiraiya just stared. I understand this, but how could you leave Naruto by himself? You know as well as I do what Kushina and Mito-sama have told us about being a Jinchuriki. This was all detrimental to him. Jiraiya asked and stated as he couldn't understand, despite the warnings from both of their Jinchurikis on the matter. At the point of his former caretaker leaving, there was no one suitable to take care of him. There were some problems concerning the Uchiha at the time, and I wasn't able to have Mikoto take him in. With her ability to keep Kushina in check on the battlefield, she was the only other person able to watch Naruto. No one in the village was equipped. Sarutobi stated, to which Jiraiya's eyes narrowed at this. Being a spy and intelligence officer, he could pick up things most people wouldn't notice. I've been meaning to ask, what happened? You should have been able to negotiate with them and come to an understanding. How did something like that happen? Jiraiya stated as he already had the knowledge of what happened. Jiraiya had been around Itachi enough to know what the guy was made of. It was easy to piece together what had happened. Again, I think Danzo had a hand in things he shouldn't have. I had postponed any action and vetoed against the council. Next thing I know is Itachi is in my office begging for me to save Sayori. Sarutobi stated as he was getting annoyed with how much people have done things behind his back on things, now that he thought about it. We need to focus on in-house operations, sensei. What has happened in the last 12 years is inexcusable. Just this alone lets me know that we have more going on inside the village than outside. Jiraiya stated with a serious tone, and Sarutobi was glad that his student was at least being civil with him rather than yelling. You're right, it seems. I've been so wrapped up in things that have been going on that I was afraid of what Naruto would think if he knew the truth. Once it settled down, I wanted everything to return to normal. The peace treaty incident was a mess that lasted a year, and then the Uchiha. I failed in more than one way, Jiraiya, I don't need you to tell me that. Sarutobi stated as he had a week to think over what he had been doing in the last 12 years. I'm going to go find Naruto and help him. I've blinded myself to think he was safe for the last 12 years. I will make it up to him. You, however, will fix what is going on in Konoha. Jiraiya stated with a firm tone to which sent of warning alarms in Sarutobi's head. He wanted Jiraiya to be around Naruto and have a relationship with his godson, but now was not the best time. Jiraiya, I know you want to be around him, but Naruto needs to think for himself. People have been controlling his life since the beginning. I want Naruto's answer to be his, no matter what it might be. Wait till at least he calms down. Sarutobi asked with a pleading tone as Naruto really needed to come to this decision himself. He didn't want anyone to influence him. I'm not doing anything but meeting my godson. Someone I should have been around all along. Whatever he chooses will be his. I'm just fixing my own mistakes. Jiraiya stated with a fierce tone that made Sarutobi flinch a little. Well, this could have gone better, so Sarutobi just sighed and nodded at this. Before I leave, I thought the last Uchiha was named Sasuke and Sayori is definitely a female name. Jiraiya asked with a raised eyebrow and Sarutobi rubbed the back of his head at this. It appears the young Uchiha was hiding her true self on her mother's orders. The Uchiha are quite strict on female heirs. You know what happened with Mikoto and having an arranged marriage with Fugaku. Sarutobi stated with a slightly amused tone and Jiraiya nodded at this as he remembered how Kushina threatened to kill Fugaku if he hurt Mikoto in any way. I see, and how did it come to light? I don't think that Sayori would want to do something about it. Jiraiya wondered with a confused tone while Sarutobi chuckled at this. Jiraiya realized that this was going to be an interesting little story just by that. Interesting that? Your godson had something to do with that. I think Kakashi reported that he had accidentally walked in on Sayori who was having a bath and well, you get what I'm saying. Sarutobi said with a chuckle to which made Jiraiya smirk at this. Oh, how he was so going to tease Naruto when they meet. Elsewhere. She was pissed. Completely and utterly pissed. She had spent her downtime after training looking for that idiot to make him pay. She knew she was in the wrong for antagonizing him slightly, but he went off the wall. She didn't know what his problem was. She also didn't like what he said about her, so she wanted to find him and make him pay for what he said about her. The idiot would find out what it's like to be on the receiving end of her wrath. He dared to call her a traitor and she hadn't even done anything. All she had wanted him to do is apologize for running into her. She would never be like her brother and leave the village as well as betray everyone around her. Haha equals P, she wouldn't become him and she wasn't going to take something said to her like that from an idiot like him. He didn't know her and he had the gall to say stuff like that to her face. The only problem with that is that Naruto had disappeared from the village. No one had seen him and she could only look for him after training. Kakashi wanted to keep her outside the village and make it like survival training. There was no way that she was going to sleep in a campsite with a pervert like Kakashi. She still wanted to relieve her anger for Naruto revealing her true gender. She blushed at the very thought of what happened but pushed it out of her mind. The little bastard saw her completely naked and that little beating she gave him was nowhere near enough. The blonde also liked to worm his way into her life even when he wasn't even there. It annoyed her and all the time it was how the idiot was being stupid or pissed her off. This is why she finally had enough to actually hunt him down and she was going to kill him. It sounded like a good plan. Hiba. Sayori called out seeing the wild boy. Said person turned and blinked seeing Sayori walking towards him. What's up? Kiba asked with a confused voice as Sayori was never one to talk to him or even come near him before. Where the hell is that blonde idiot? Sayori asked as Kiba was one of people Naruto hung out with. He should know where Naruto was out of everyone. Naruto? Why are you looking for Naruto? Kiba asked with a confused tone. He knew that the two never got along, and he never thought he would actually see the cold bastard well bitch now actually look for the blonde. Kiba was still trying to figure that one out, though it did explain why she smelled more like a female than male. One of the perks of being an Inuzuka is to be able to smell differences between people even under henges or shape-shifting techniques. People call it or him weird because of it, but he finds that it's really handy. You can tell when someone is coming even if they were hidden unless they were coming from downwind. I want to beat the shit out of him. Sayori stated without any hesitation. Kiba blinked at this before sighing. I don't know where he is. We really don't hang out. Kiba stated as he rubbed the back of his head. Kiba thought more of Naruto as a rival than a friend. Naruto is a great guy, don't get him wrong, but they always competed and fought like rivals then hung out together. Sayori paused at this as Kiba was the last person out of Naruto's group of friends that he hung out with during their time at the academy, and they all didn't know. She had gotten basically the same answer from all of them, though Shikamaru actually saw him. He never inquired where the blonde was going, and people have only vaguely seen him over the course of the week. Sayori glared at Kiba who took a step back by the change of looks. All he could think is what he said or did in the last week or two to piss her off. Sayori on the other hand just thought about a certain part of what Naruto basically forced down her face. Sayori said before turning around to head towards wherever to look for the idiot. Something was going on and it wasn't Naruto himself. Well, the idiot had a problem, but it wasn't because of him. There was something about him that people didn't like and she was going to find out. Boy, Sayori. What the hell did I do? Kiba exclaimed as he was confused by the cold shoulder. He really didn't understand what was going on, but he wanted answers. He knew she was a bitch, but she was the one who came looking for him. If I need to explain it, you won't learn anything, Baka. Sayori stated in her normal cold tone, and she could hear the pleasant sound of his growling. It was so easy to piss off Kiba, but he was nothing. The one she had to force to confess what was going on is Naruto. She hated being out of the loop. Well, there is only one way to find out. If he won't be found through normal ways then she will just have to wait for him. Time skip. Naruto's apartment. Naruto sighed as he stretched walking up to his door after another days of hard work. He had been progressing nicely as he tried to understand the Yondame's journal. He was more of a physical person than a book person as he did things better by doing rather than reading. Luckily for him all Taijutsu katas came with pictures. Hiding one Kage Bunshin did wonders to help him improve his Taijutsu, at least he thought he did. It helped him practice his form, but he couldn't fight anyone else or have someone actually pick at his form. Well, it's always been like this so he shouldn't be too surprised. Naruto walked up to his door and noticed that his door was slightly open. He could see little scratch marks near the key slot. Someone had picked his door and forgot to make it seem like no one was home. That meant he was either robbed or someone he knew got impatient. He sighed but brought a kunai out just in case before slowly walking into his house. It was rather late so his whole apartment will be rather dark. Really, why did this stuff always have to happen to him? He just hoped that someone wasn't trying to kill him in his own home. Naruto flicked on the light and just stared at who had broke into his house. There laying on his bed asleep was Sayori. Naruto scratched his head as Sayori was the last person he would imagine to break into his house this late at night. Well, not that much he could do so he just shut his door and went on his way. He needed a snack then he would go to bed. He would find out what she wanted tomorrow. Seemed like a good plan. Chapter 4. Jiraiya is jumping from roof to roof heading towards where his godson's apartment is. He had been held up by meetings with Sarutobi and his advisors over the information that he had brought back. He had to wait till the morning before he could go visit. He heard that he had to actually go see him early in the morning or Naruto would disappear to wherever he was heading for training. He hoped that he was heading early enough to actually catch him before he heads out. He didn't want to have to track his own godson down just to meet him for the first time. Feminine scream. Itai. A boy screamed out in pain causing Jiraiya to stop on the roof right next to the apartment that his godson was supposed to be in. Jiraiya looked at the window of Naruto's apartment to see a female fuming and read in embarrassment. All he could see of Naruto was his legs up in the air next to the bed. Jiraiya blinked before taking out his telescope and increased his hearing via chakra. This might turn out to be interesting and he wanted to know more about his godson. What better way to get to know how he is doing than spying on him with his lady friend? Few minutes earlier. Naruto's apartment. So comfy, Sayori thought groggily as she pushed herself into the warm comfortable flesh that she was having the best sleep she has had in a while and felt rather safe. Wait, warm comfortable flesh. She thought as she opened her eyes and was greeted with the sight of someone's chest. Her face ignited in red as she pulled her head off of a certain blonde's chest. She couldn't believe that she felt comfy and safe laying next to the idiot of all people. She had never thought Naruto as someone she would feel safe within her. She was thinking it while waking. She could only stare at Naruto in horror at her thoughts as her face got redder and redder. Naruto on the other hand mumbled at the movement but was still asleep. Eep. She squeaked out as something was squeezing her ass, and Naruto's mumble disappeared, which was replaced by a goofy smile. Sayori, Naruto mumbled out before drifting off into a deep sleep again, which intensified her blush. The idiot was dreaming about her and how he said her name just now with a romantic tone to it. Naruto pulled her down and hugged her, to which he also squeezed her ass again. Sayori was still calm enough to control herself, but that was only until her face was inches from Naruto. This made her recall when the two of them kiss, and she completely lost all of her cool demeanor. She let out probably the closest to a panicked feminine scream as she ever would, pulled herself from Naruto's grip and then cocked back her fist before slugging Naruto in the face. This launched Naruto off the bed, where he screamed out in pain and his legs hung in the air as he was up against the bed. Naruto blinked at this as he held his pain cheek and wondered what was going on. Why was his cheek in pain, and was he dreaming of Sayori? Naruto's dream. An older Naruto smiled as he stood up from a desk that had quite a bit of paperwork on it and turned around. He smiled as he looked out a window to the village below. It's an office that he would always remember as he had achieved his goal. He was Hokage. I guess that's all for today, Naruto. A voice came from behind him and he turned with a smile to the person that spoke to him. It was an older Shikamaru with a cigarette in his mouth, wearing the standard Jonin attire. Heading home to your family, or do you want to head out for a drink? Shikamaru asked with an inviting tone. Naruto, however, just smiled at this. I have to get home sadly, but thanks for the invite, Shikamaru. I'm all for it tomorrow after work though. Haim has dinner most likely already made and I don't want to make her angry. Naruto said while rubbing the back of his head sheepishly and with a slight scared tone. Of course you don't. She's the only one that can actually kick your ass. I'm surprised you can deal with her, the troublesome women. Shikamaru stated with a bored tone as he yawned. Naruto just chuckled nervously at this and Shikamaru just muttered that he was whipped. Ah, you're one to talk. You're more whipped than me. Naruto barked back to Shikamaru, who just rubbed the back of his head and muttered something about a troublesome woman. Naruto walked out from behind the desk and put a hand on Shikamaru's shoulder. We'll talk about the rest tomorrow. You need some rest after coming back from that mission to talking to me about how to keep the peace between all the nations. You get some rest as well, Hokage-sama. Shikamaru said before both of them walked out of the office and headed in different directions. It didn't take long to get to his house and he walked into the house. His home with his loving family that brings him happiness, and he would never have to be lonely again. I'm home. Naruto yelled out with a chipper tone. Dusan. He heard two people yell, and they shouldn't pretty young. Two little kids came around the corner, one boy, one girl. The girl has blonde hair with charcoal eyes, while the boy has black hair and black eyes. Welcome back. The two said together with cheerful smiles on their faces. Hey you two, were you good for your mother? Naruto asked the two, who just gave an innocent hi and nodded together as Naruto had picked them up. Naruto chuckled at this as he could tell they did something mischievous. Okay you two, what did you do this time, and to who? We dyed Hyuga team's clothes pink. The boy stated with a happy and proud smile on his face, as well as in a chipper tone. Yup, and no one caught us. Did we do good too, San? The girl asked with her childlike innocence, and Naruto just smiled despite hearing from a certain two people tomorrow morning. He could just feel the headache tomorrow, but he still thought it was funny. Yes, but please try to get along with Hinata-chan's son. His parents are good friends of mine. Naruto asked the two, who just pouted in annoyance at the thought of getting along with the kid. Naruto just chuckled at this and wondered why his children got into fights with Hinata's little boy. The boy was nice, at least in all the meetings he had with the boy. It seems they get more from you than they do from me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. A beautiful voice came from ahead of them and Naruto looked up to see a beautiful black-haired woman. Only one word would describe her, perfect. They got the best of both of us. Naruto said, putting the kids down. Said kids went you before taking off before they could see anything they thought was icky, aka their parents kissing. Naruto chuckled at this before walking up to the beautiful woman that was his wife. Sayori. Naruto said as he got close and then brought her close to him, his hands around her waist. He put his forehead on hers and the two of them smiled at this. The next thing that Naruto knew, however, was blinding pain and the dream disappearing. Real time? Naruto was confused by all of it. First, why did his cheek hurt so badly? 2. Why the hell did he get waken up like this? 3. Why was he on the floor, and lastly, why the fucking hell was he dreaming about having a family with Sayori of all people? Naruto blinked a couple of times before staring up to see a beet red Sayori, and she seemed to be breathing hard as if out of breath. Why was she alright? She had broke into his apartment and had fallen asleep in his bed that he wasn't about to have taken from him, so he went to sleep next to her so he would get a good sleep. Why the hell were you hugging me and sleeping next to me, dope? Do you want me to punch you again? Sayori screamed out in embarrassment and quite flustered. Naruto blinked some more at this. So that's what happened, but he never figured that Sayori would freak out badly enough to punch him in the face. You're the one that broke into my house and decided to fall asleep in my bed. I'm not losing my bed because you decided to sleep on it. Naruto said with a grumble while rubbing his face. She had clocked him rather badly and he hissed as he touched the point of impact. Haven't you ever heard of being a gentleman? Who in their right mind sleeps next to a girl uninvited? Sayori growled out still with a massive blush from embarrassment on her face. Gentleman? To you? You punched me in the face and broke into my house. A normal person would leave after realizing I wasn't coming back. Naruto stated as he stood up, showing that he was in nothing but his underwear, and Sayori stared at his chest, which was surprising well developed despite being rather thin. Put some clothes on you pervert. Sayori yelled out getting even redder. Naruto looked down at his attire or lack of one before sighing. He went over to his dresser and pulled out a black shirt and grabbed his orange pants. God, I can't believe you would be so undressed in front of a girl like me, dope. Naruto just turned back to her and glared lightly. 1. You're uninvited in my house. 2. You decided to stay without my permission. 3. You decided to take up my bed. Finally, why should I care when you do all this? Naruto asked and stated making her look away. You should still know not to enter a girl's personal space. Sayori yelled out to which Naruto just stared at her. Well excuse me for still thinking that you're a fucking guy. Naruto yelled back with some anger in his voice, making Sayori flinch. Naruto sighed for the second time in a minute before rubbing the back of his head. Well this was just great. He slept rather nicely and having a good dream despite who it was with. He had hoped to be up and out of his house before she woke up. So much for that. Just, what do you want? Naruto gave up. Being angry at her wasn't even worth it and didn't do anything except ruin his day. It was better just getting this conversation over with as fast as he could, so she got out of his hair. He could at least think in peace then. Sayori blinked before calming down. It was obvious to her that Naruto was just trying to get her out of his hair by bringing up why she was here in the first place. Why was she here anyways? It had something to do with Naruto and him yelling at her before. Oh right, she was here to get his explanation for yelling at him or something. Why the hell does everyone look at you strangely and act like you did something crazy when the worst I have seen you do is play pranks? Sayori asked with an undertone that said she would force it out of him if she had to. This question caught Naruto off guard because he figured she would get up into his face over what he said. You her. I have the Kyuubi sealed inside of me. Naruto said truthfully as he didn't care if Sayori hated him even more or not. It's not like either of them cared for each other, nor did they get along. They weren't even friends so it really didn't matter if she knew or not. Sayori opened her mouth to retort to him saying something or redirecting the question so he wouldn't have to answer. She closed it as what he said processed in her mind and she stilled. She never really bought the whole Kyuubi was killed story that they were given, but it being sealed into the idiot was definitely a curveball. Wah? Sayori started, but Naruto just glared at her. I don't need pity nor do I care if you think I'm the thing or not. You wanted to know and I gave you the truth. Now are you going to leave or not? Naruto said cutting her off to which she stared at him as he went to his cupboard to get some food. Her eye twitched as she overcame the shock that the information gave her. It explained a lot, but he didn't have to get snippy with her. He didn't even hear her out and he was already ousting her thinking that she was going to be like those idiots in the village. She got up from Naruto's bed and walked over to him. She raised her fist and clocked Naruto over the head again. Tai, what the fuck was that for you bitch? Naruto growled out at getting hit for the second time today and he hadn't even started training at all. Where the hell do you get off thinking I'm an idiot like yourself? I'm a fucking shinobi, I know what sealing is and I know the fucking difference. You being the Kyuubi is about as ludicrous as pigs flying. Sayori stated with a growl and a stern look. Naruto started but this time, she cut him off. Oh no, you shut the fuck up. Sayori yelled out to which Naruto closed his mouth. Her using the Sharingan made her rather persuasive. I'm still pissed at you for going off at me even if I did antagonize you, but don't even think I'm stupid enough to believe you're a demon. You're still an idiot who screws up all the time. Also, where do you get off saying that I'm the same as my brother to call me a traitor? I might be cold and closed off, but you don't know me, so don't even dare classify me as such you bastard. Sayori stated poking him in the chest as if to get her point across. Naruto stared at her at this. Whatever, I was angry about a lot of things. I'm sorry for saying that. You just happened to be the first person I saw that got my anger. Are we done? I have things to do other than this, nor am I happy that you don't think I'm the Kyuubi or not. Naruto said going back to the cabinet he was getting food out of. If you don't care what I think then why are you crying? Sayori questioned with a confused tone as Naruto's eyes widened. He was crying. He didn't feel like he was crying. Naruto reached up and touched his face. He felt the wetness of tears and blinked at this. After so long, why was he crying? It couldn't be that he felt happy that someone thought of him differently. That someone he knew even if they weren't friends didn't care. Just like that, as soon as he realized this, it was like the waterworks and built-up sadness came to the end. Naruto just started to cry and Sayori was taken back by this. Naruto fell to his knees and Sayori caught him thinking that he was going to fall. "Boy, what's wrong?" "Naruto, hey." Sayori asked and said with some worry. She had never seen the blonde like this before, but Naruto just continued to cry. "God, are you such a handful? Do I have to watch out for you at all times or something? You're so hopeless." She had said that, but she just let him cry for the first time in what was most likely a very long time. Chapter 5. Naruto sat on the ground in front of a stream on the rock-filled ground. To say that he was embarrassed by what had happened this morning was the statement of a lifetime. He had cried in the arms of the last person he ever thought he would do that with. It was strange by the fact that Sayori had just let him cry. She made no witty comments on him being a crybaby or anything. She just let him cry into her shoulder. It was strange as he never figured her to be the comforting type at all. All she had ever done in their interactions before was either fight with him, make fun of him or completely ignore him. He had cried badly when Iruka said something similar, but he had a buffer to stop him from crying in uncontrollable happiness like he did with Sayori. He had to pull himself together with Iruka because Mizuki was trying to kill him. With Sayori, it wasn't a serious life-threatening situation where he had to stop. She was an odd person to say the least. After what happened today, he started to think more about her. Not in a platonic sense but in a way that he was trying to figure her out. With what happened, it was hard to get a read on what she was actually like under that cold and angry personality and mask that she keeps up. Naruto always took her at face value, thinking that she was a bitch and never really tried to look underneath it all. He did know that she was lonely, but he just never tried to look past what he already saw. That the appearance she keeps up with people was how she actually was. What he did know about her was that she is incredibly proud, stubborn to a point, and distant to the point it seems like she is cold. She didn't like to seem weak and powerless while keeping up a strong appearance. Granted, Naruto never saw her as anything else and strived to meet her goals. Naruto never saw the other side of things. He couldn't see what was underneath all that and it interested him slightly to find out who she truly was. It kind of confused him, but he always wanted to be friends with Sayori. He just didn't know how to approach her before. She could be nice when she wanted to, if this morning was anything to go by. She allowed him to cry till he felt better and said nothing to him about it. She was considerate enough in that fashion. So there were more sides to her than he knew and he wanted to see them. He had also seemed to get over the fact that she was a girl now. The dream had really drove at him for him that Sayori was no longer Sasuke. Hell, that dream was embarrassing just to have, but it was just that, a dream. It wasn't real, but it still proved the point that he had to accept that Sayori was a girl now. Naruto really couldn't get his mind off Sayori, and that was the strange thing. Normally it was most just trying to think of different ways to one-up Sayori in sparring or in skill, before actually trying to do what he thought up. Well, that and what he was going to do that day and his own personal training. Now she wouldn't leave his mind and it bothered him slightly. "Thinking about your little girlfriend, aren't ya, Naruto?" A voice came from behind him and his hairs stood on end. Naruto screamed out, jumping as he didn't even notice anyone and flew forward. He looked back to see that Jiraiya was standing behind where he was sitting. All thoughts left of Sayori exited his mind and his formerly good day was completely ruined as anger once again took precedent over anything else. He already knew who this man was and what he was to him. He had seen a picture of him in the Yondame's journal and knew what he was in relation to him. This man, he dared to appear in front of him after all this time and act casually at that. Did he not know what he has been going through his whole life? Did he not know the kind of hell everything was for him and that his life was just now only looking slightly better? Jiraiya, on the other hand, just stared at his godson for the first time in almost 13 years and could already tell how pissed he was. The fact that Naruto's eyes were now red and him channeling some of the Kyuubi's chakra was a very good indication of that. It was also another indication that he failed both his godson and his student who was as close to a son as you could get. Naruto shouldn't have to look at him with that much anger, nor should he have known nothing but pain. He should have been there and shown the boy what a family is. "I won't make excuses. I have failed you, Naruto. I know you already know who I am, and no amount of apologies is going to make this any better." Jiraiya opened up the conversation with a sad seriousness and Naruto just glared at him. He wanted to hear the man's excuses. He wanted him to explain himself in hopes that it would relieve some of his anger. This man was his godfather, someone he should have known about. He was happy to know that the man knew that no amount of apologies was going to fix it and excuses meant nothing, but he still wanted to hear them. They wouldn't help but at least give him reasons. Since Naruto couldn't keep his mind occupied trying to understand Jiraiya's reasons or excuses, his anger just got a hold of him. He did the only thing possible and punched the man in the gut with a Kyuubi amplified punch. This sent Jiraiya back a couple of feet even if he could have dodged. What the hell makes you think I want you in my life now? What gives you the right to appear in my life after abandoning me for my whole life? Did you even care about me? Did you even love me enough to not leave me alone? Ugh, Naruto screamed out though pain shot through his body from his stomach which he clutched almost toppling over. It was much worse than the time he felt like this when he first saw Sayuri that day. Naruto? Jiraiya asked as he looked up to see Naruto clutching his stomach where the seal was and seemed to be in pain. That meant the seal was not in the best of conditions and that was not a good thing for Naruto. He was instantly by Naruto's side a second later. Naruto, lift up your shirt. Let me see the seal. Don't touch me. I'm fine. Naruto said, swatting his hands away, but he was definitely not fine. His whole body felt like it was on fire with his stomach being the epicenter. His chakra control had been messed up ever since the encounter with that snake. You're definitely not fine. Something is wrong with the seal. It could cause you problems health-wise and as a ninja, so let me see it. Jiraiya said with worry in his voice. Naruto wasn't sure if it was towards him or the prospect of the Kyuubi escaping or doing something. Naruto sat back and pulled up his jacket and undershirt. The seal was visible with another seal over it. The skin around and under the seal were beet red. It was obviously the two seals counteracting, both were causing the chakra to burn the whole area of his stomach. The Goju Fuin. Of course this would cause problems with an odd number seal over an even numbered seal. So the Uchiha wasn't the only one that got something from Orochimaru. This has his handiwork all over it with how rough this is. Jiraiya thought to himself as it wasn't as bad as he thought. Alright Naruto, I can fix this, but it might hurt. Jiraiya said, but Naruto only groaned in annoyance. Goju Kain. Jiraiya reared his hand back and smashed it into Naruto's stomach. Naruto coughed out as he slid back a little and clutched his stomach that was no longer red. Why the fuck did you hit me that hard? Naruto yelled out before blinking to himself. He felt normal would probably be the best way to describe what he was feeling like. His chakra was acting normal and he didn't feel like he was weighted down. Brat, why didn't you tell anyone that you had another seal on you or that something was up? Do you know what could have happened to you if you let this go on? Jiraiya sternly told him, to which Naruto just glared at him but looked away as the man had a good point. I thought I was fine and that my chakra was just acting up. I thought it would disappear. Why does it matter to you anyways? Naruto growled out as he didn't like it that Jiraiya was talking to him like that when he really didn't have a right to anymore. Do you have any idea what can happen if something like this was unattended to? You could have seriously got injured, lost your ability to be a ninja, which would have led to having the Kyuubi extracted from you, so there can be another Jinchuriki or died. Jiraiya yelled out, taking Naruto back by how much worry and seriousness was in his voice. I know I haven't even done anything for you, but take some consideration about yourself. I care about you even though I wasn't here for you. I thought you were taken care of and I wasn't told about what was happening here. I should have checked up on you myself, but don't be so careless with your body, especially if something is going on with your chakra. I don't want to see you die like Minato did. Jiraiya said with worry, and at the mention of Minato, he flinched a bit. Naruto just stared at Jiraiya as he tried to gauge the man. It hurt for him to talk about his father. He should have asked someone about what was going on with his chakra or at least let the Hokage know. He didn't think it was that serious because he normally healed or got over things in a couple of days. He was too wrapped up in his own training to really notice it that much. So why are you here, Jiraiya? Naruto asked as he sighed. He had been doing that a lot lately. He didn't quite know how to actually feel about the man past his anger. It seemed that Jiraiya was genuinely worried about him, and while he seemed to be looking for forgiveness, he was going to work and make up for everything rather than just asking for forgiveness. I want to at least help you with your training. I know how Minato explains things, and I've been told that you're slow on things due to how you learned in the academy. One of the places I will be visiting eventually to get an explanation. I'm not going to start acting like a godfather after all this time, but I can at least make sure you're strong enough. Jiraiya said in thought to Naruto and himself. Strong enough for what? Naruto said, to which Jiraiya silently cursed to himself that he caught that. Still, it was probably better for now to not hide things from him. It seemed that hiding things from Naruto has only done more harm than good. I'll be straight with you. You have a group of S-rank ninja, 9 in total if my information is right, after the Kyuubi that is inside of you. Jiraiya stated, to which Naruto just stared at him with wide eyes. S-rank ninja were stronger than Kakashi. Just fucking great. Awesome. Another thing that having the Kyuubi gives me. Naruto said under his breath as he ignored the previous shot at his intelligence that Jiraiya said. At least he didn't outright call him an idiot. So, what are you working on? Normally I would try getting you better used to the Kyuubi's chakra because that would give you something to be able to quickly use against Akatsuki, but it will get in the way of what you're working on for the chunin exams. Jiraiya stated with a serious tone, and Naruto thought about it. I've been working on the taijutsu style he has in his journal, as well as making a special type of shunshin that's just mine. It was talking about you need something special to use the highest speed it gives to a person without getting all weird in the eye department. Naruto said while rubbing the back of his head, and Jiraiya felt like he should explain what he meant in more detail. The Sandaime was right in saying he wasn't a technical person. That's true. To use the shunshin in battle, a normal person has to decrease the amount of speed generated by the technique to the most the body can handle before getting to the point where they get tunnel vision. It's true that you need a workaround such as increasing the rate at which the brain processes and responds to what the eye sees, like how the current Raikage increases his reflexes with a Raiten, no Yaroi or have a Taijutsu. Jiraiya said as he hummed over everything as Naruto looked at him with a confused expression on his face with question marks over his head. So what have you been planning as a workaround, brat? I doubt that you could suddenly gain a taijutsu. Jiraiya said in wonder as this reminded him slightly of what Minato talked about when he recreated the Hiraishin. I was planning on seeing what my affinity is and then trying to incorporate the two with special feet movements. Don't know much else I can do except using Fuinjutsu to increase my visual processes like the Sharingan. Naruto said, scratching his head at this. That's cognitive ability through sight, brat, but what do you mean by Fuinjutsu to recreate the visual aspects of the Sharingan? Jiraiya asked as doing something like that would be utterly impressive and almost impossible. Oh, it's just the ability to take in information through sight like how it can read movement or whatever. I really don't remember the exact words. Naruto said with a rather hard look as if he was trying to recall everything. Jiraiya just sweat dropped at this. Something like that is going to be hard and almost impossible to do. You would need to be a Fuin master to do something like that, and it would take forever to do that. Jiraiya stated, and this is where Jiraiya was confused because it looked like Naruto wasn't concerned. I already did that. It wasn't that hard, Jiraiya. Naruto said with a snort of annoyance at the idea he couldn't do something, and Jiraiya blinked at this confused. All I did was take some seals for information gather and some key seals which fit with the other ones and it worked. Kid, do you even know what those seals actually do or do you actually understand what sealing is? Jiraiya said with a sweat drop. Nope, I didn't get any of the technical stuff. Fuinjutsu is just a puzzle really. You take parts and other things and match them. You just have to see if they work. Naruto stated, to which Jiraiya's mouth just dropped. This kid made the most complex art in the world and made it seem like a game. This kid really didn't seem to have any fear. You're just like your mother. You have no fear for things. Jiraiya said with a deadpan at this information. Naruto tilted his head at this but didn't ask. So before we get started with the whole training thing, as I can help with that, I got a question. Go ahead. Naruto said as a simple question wouldn't hurt. How was it to cry your eyes out in the breast of a cute little girl like that? Jiraiya asked with a perverted chuckle, to which Naruto's face went red. You saw that? Naruto yelled out in embarrassment. Jiraiya just chuckled as he nodded. She ain't cute. She's Miss Cold Ice Queen. Why would it matter? I was happy to know at least another person doesn't think less of me because of the Kyuubi, but that's it. I think you should go for her. Most girls like that have a cold exterior usually have a kind and caring interior. Plus she's pretty good looking for her age. If I was that young, I would go after her. Jiraiya stated, making Naruto look at him with bug eyes. You aren't you like 50, you old fart? That's gross, you pedo. Naruto said as he was starting to lose even more respect for the old man. Boy, I'm not into young women. She just looks rather mature for her age, and stating a fact. I would never touch a girl or even think of someone that age in anything, but that they are a brat like you. Jiraiya stated as he was taken aback by his godson's statement and grossed out. Though that doesn't mean you haven't done anything. Have you tried anything with her? I saw that touching scene. Come on, spill for your godfather. Hell no, we're 12, damn it. You're just a pervert. Wait, you also travel, you're an Iro-senin, aren't you? Naruto said childishly, to which Jiraiya twitched in annoyance at the name. Boy, I'm not just a pervert, I'm a super pervert. Wait, that came out wrong, don't call me a pervert at all, you brat. Call me that again and I will beat you 3 ways to Sunday. Jiraiya yelled back to Naruto, who twitched in annoyance at this. Oh yeah, like some old pervert, like you could do anything but probably peep on girls or something. Naruto stated back to the older one of the two. This would start a long stream of insults back and forth at each other that probably wouldn't end for a while. Elsewhere. Sakura sat on her bed with her legs up at her chest. She had a lot of things on her mind now that she had time off. The whole thing about her crush being a girl wasn't even what was on her mind really. It was a shocker that turned her world on its head, but that's not what she was thinking about now. No, she had lost her chance at being in the chunin exams finals, and they had opened her mind to herself. Now that Sasuke no Sayuri wasn't on her mind anymore, she had realized some things. She had realized her shortcomings as a kunoichi and how pathetic she is. She had totally lost her way with her obsession over Sayori that she became so pathetic. She had spent so much time over her looks that she didn't do anything. She had become a ninja to make her parents proud of her and to live up to them. She couldn't believe herself. She didn't do any training outside of what was asked. She never really drove herself in the ground a lot because she didn't want to smell or get dirty should Sayori see her. She even wondered if she had any skill to be a ninja at this rate. She had barely tied Ino in their match. That was another wake-up call for her. All she had was complete useless against Ino, and her taijutsu was better. It meant that she actually tried to improve even if she was going for Sayori's affections. She also lost a great friend because of herself. Ino's skills were more team-oriented, with the need of someone to hold down the target so she could transfer. She was able to transfer her mind even without her team by laying down a trap. The only reason she got out of the mind transfer jutsu is because Ino was weakened and because Naruto cheered for her, awakening her inner mind to fight off Ino. She was so behind everyone and that made her feel worse. Everyone seemed so far away that she didn't like it. She didn't want to keep looking at everyone's back and having to rely on them to save her. She wouldn't allow them to get her because of her anymore when she should be helping them. The question is how. I'll ask Hokage-sama for help. It was the only thing she could do. Kakashi-sensei was out training Sayori now and they returned just to sleep for the night. She never saw them and Naruto was even worse than them. She hadn't seen hide or hair of the blonde. So she steeled herself and headed to the Hokage's office to see if he could give her an idea of where she should start. Chapter 6. Day before chunin exams finals. Hinata was not in the best of moods considering what she has seen. She wanted to meet with Naruto alone and ask him not to think badly of Neji as well as to not hurt him too badly. She believed Naruto could beat him, but he was still her cousin. She also didn't want what happened to her to happen to Naruto. She had finally been released from the hospital and told to keep it easy for a while, which meant no training. So instead of doing nothing, she sought out Naruto to talk to him about the fight tomorrow. Of course, what she found when she found him was not reassuring. Naruto was hanging around the last person Hinata felt he should be around. Of course, the two of them were arguing like always, but the two were still hanging out. It didn't sit well with Hinata even if they were teammates, but Sayori was not someone she liked. Sayori hurt Naruto a lot with the way she acted around him and talked to him. Even with that, Naruto still tried to be around her and talk to her. He even seemed somewhat happy at that even if it looked like they were fighting. It annoyed her, and while she wanted Naruto to be happy with any he ends up with though she wishes it to be her. That however did not mean she would let Sayori have him. All she did was hurt him in their talks, was cold to everyone including him, and the way she took things was not the best in terms of mindset. Someone like that would not make Naruto happy whatsoever. Huh? Oh hey Hinata. How are you feeling? Naruto asked as he noticed her looking in their direction and Hinata's face ignited. All thought of the two being near each other seemed to leave her mind. All that was left was her saying that Naruto was talking to her. I'm fine Naruto-kun. Hinata stuttered out with a low tone, and Sayori rolled her eyes. It was easy to guess that she was more shocked that Naruto still hadn't figured out Hinata's feelings than being annoyed with how Hinata was around him. Oh, that's good. You had me worried there. I still can't believe that the bastard would do that to someone in his own family. Naruto said with anger in his voice at the thought of someone abusing someone in their family. It just didn't sit right with him. It was obvious to see that Naruto would hold family high up on things he holds dear, even if he didn't have any. It's because of that he thought highly of it. To him, family was something you should cherish even if there were problems. That you should never intentionally hurt people in your family no matter the circumstances. It's fine, I know the reasons and I've long accepted them, Hinata stated with a quiet voice as she looked away at this. Naruto scowled at this, and even Sayori seemed to not like this. She cherished family a lot since she lost hers. There was no excuse that justified killing your family or trying to. I don't care what his reasons were. Trying to kill a member of your family is as bad as you could get. I'm going to knock some sense into him. Naruto said with a heated voice and Sayori nodded in agreement. She agreed with this full-heartedly. Please don't hurt him too badly. No matter what happened, he is still family to me. Hinata said as she realized that nothing was going to persuade Naruto out of this. Naruto just looked at her for a couple of seconds before nodding. He would kick his ass, but he would at least not majorly injure him if he could help it. So, what's up Hinata? You seem to be seeking us out. Naruto stated, to which Hinata realized that Naruto was interested in why she was most likely staring at them. Hinata wondered what she should do before steeling herself for this line of questions. What do you think about me Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, making Naruto blink at this question, while Sayori's eyes widened at this. She never thought that the soft-spoken Hyuga would actually get the courage to ask this. She even tilted her head before noticing that Hinata was glancing at her somewhat heatedly. Does she, oh god, does she think, Sayori thought to herself in shock and with a red tinge to her cheeks as she turned away from the Hyuga. She has been spending her downtime with him since that whole episode, but the two didn't even look or act like a couple. Where could Hinata have pulled this idea from? Naruto was extremely confused at this. He hadn't seen Hinata since the preliminaries, and this was rather odd as a starting question for the first time seeing each other in almost a month. He really didn't know how to respond to this at all really. "Well, I've always thought of you as weird," Naruto said as he looked up in thought as he rubbed the back of his head. Sayori just stared at him blandly as she couldn't believe he just said that to her face. Hinata looked rather chestfallen at this. Luckily for both of them, Naruto continued with his thoughts. "You're nice though, and you've shown me that you're very confident with your fight. You're smart, kind, beautiful, and a person I would like to get to know better. You act strangely around me, so I've mostly thought you were weird though," Naruto said, to which Hinata was now very much almost fainting from the comments. He's lucky that he didn't just say she was weird, or I would have clocked him over the head for being an idiot. Sayori thought as she was glad Naruto wasn't a complete idiot and actually went into detail. "Why are you asking though, Hinata? No one's actually asked for my thoughts on them before," Naruto asked, confused and curious at the same time. No one has really asked for his opinion on anyone, so he was naturally curious about why she was asking as the first person to come to him about it. "It's because she likes you, moron. You seem to be the only one that hasn't noticed," Sayori stated, blunted, shocking Naruto if his stilled form was anything to go by. "Sayori-chan." Hinata screamed out, utterly embarrassed that she was the one to say it, and in front of Naruto, no doubt. She had confidence issues, she didn't need something like this right now. "What, you weren't going to have the courage to ask him, and he's the idiot for not noticing in years. Now it's out of the way," Sayori stated with a firm tone that said she was right and that neither of them should doubt her on this. If Hinata wanted to beat Sayori up, now was the time she really wanted to do it. "Is this true, Hinata?" Naruto asked with a neutral tone that brought Hinata's thoughts to him. She just looked down and nodded. Naruto was hit with a realization of every interaction with Hinata and felt like an idiot. How could he have not seen the signs? "I'm flattered, Hinata," but Naruto started as he rubbed the back of his head with a blush on his face. Hinata's heart dropped at this though. She didn't want to hear the "but." "I'm not really sure what I want in a relationship yet or what I really want personally. You're a great person and someone I could probably get along with. I'm having a hard time right now and I'm recognizing things I tried to ignore forever really. In truth, I'm not sure I would be able to reciprocate your feelings or anyone's right now. I'm trying to get everything straightened out and I'm not even sure if I want a relationship now. So please don't think it's you, alright?" Naruto finished with a low voice and he hoped he could get his point across. "I see," Hinata said with a slight depressed tone. At least she was let down nicely compared to anything. She knew that she wasn't the problem or anything on this. "Why don't you two be friends? There's no reason not to hang out with each other. Might give me time away from this idiot," Sayori stated, to which the two looked at her. "What? It's not like this has to weaken your relationship with each other. I think that's a good idea. Hey Hinata, you want to come with us? She's kind of forcing me to get a change of clothes," Naruto stated with a mutter, and Hinata took in the condition of Naruto's clothes. She silently had to agree with Sayori on this one, even if it was his trademark outfit. Naruto's jumpsuit was almost completely destroyed really. It was being held together really by different patches that Naruto must have done to keep his clothes intact. It looked like complete shit in her opinion, though she would have never voiced it as such. "Sure, I can help," Hinata stated as she felt that maybe if she hung around the two she might feel better. Hinata looked at Sayori, who blinked. "Can I talk to you in private though for a minute or two?" Hinata asked, to which Sayori just nodded slightly. She was kind of confused why she was asking her. "Go ahead, you two. I can wait here," Naruto said with a cheery smile, and the two nodded before walking a good distance away. Naruto just hummed to himself for a couple of minutes until the two came back. Naruto blinked at this as Sayori was a couple shades paler, while Hinata had a bright smile on her face. Naruto wouldn't say anything towards the smile because for some reason it made him shiver in fear. "Is there a problem, you two?" Naruto asked skeptically, wondering if he should really even ask. "Of course everything is alright, right Sayori-chan?" Hinata said with a perky tone, as if whatever shyness she had around Naruto was completely gone. Sayori on the other hand just nodded her head, as if the mere thought of saying anything would be lethal. Naruto felt he shouldn't even bother asking for an in-depth explanation. "Elsewhere. Kabuto, have you found any information on where the Uchiha is training or any way we can acquire her before the invasion?" Orochimaru asked from his seat as he stared at his second in command. Both of them stood near a balcony where a bunch of people are currently fighting down below them. "No, I couldn't get close to the route she uses to get out of Konoha or where she goes for training with Kakashi. It is heavily guarded and the path isn't clear to get a direction on where she goes. When she is in the village, she is around the Kyuubi brat who is being watched by Jiraiya. Kabuto stated with a neutral tone as he reported to his master, and Orochimaru frowned and sneered at the information that Jiraiya was in the village. Jiraiya, I didn't think he would return to the village. The man is becoming a thorn in my side. He's usually too busy looking up a woman's skirt than return to give a debrief on what he found. Orochimaru said to himself more than anything else. He probably came back with information about the Akatsuki. It's not information that can be trusted to a messaging summons or by bird. They would have found out about them sooner or later. Kabuto stated with a mirthful smile at this. Should I eliminate him? Orochimaru glared at him with some killing intent. Do not get full of yourself, Kabuto. Jiraiya isn't someone to trifle with even if he acts like a lech. You wouldn't even be able to handle Tsunade if she actually kept her skills up. Only I or the high-tiered Akatsuki members could deal with him. Orochimaru growled out at the mere thought of how strong the buffoon he knew as being strong enough to beat him. He is of little significance to the plan though. He will be more busy out in the village and nowhere near the Sandaime. He would never appear at the exams even if his students were in it. He trusts the Sandaime and his students enough not to be there. The fool. Orochimaru said with a smirk as he didn't have to waste time dealing with him. Yes, that is true. From what I hear of Jiraiya, he really doesn't like showing himself in a public appearance like the chunin exams. He would rather spend his time in a brothel or bar. Kabuto stated with an amused tone at the thought of one of the legendary three being like that. Should I go after Uchiha-chan while she is with the brat? It would be easy to get her when she is with him. Kabuto asked as if that was the best thing to do. No. If something happens during the kidnapping, we might have Akatsuki after us instead of them after Naruto-kun. We need Konoha to have a reason to kill them off enough where they are no longer a threat. We will wait till after the exams to get her. Orochimaru stated as he took into account that Naruto wouldn't just let her get kidnapped or let himself be caught off guard, even if the kid didn't look like it. He might release the Kyuubi's chakra again, which is just a beacon for people to follow. While the boy wasn't overly skilled compared to what he would think, the boy was under Jiraiya's guidance now. Despite his former teammate's demeanor, he was a good teacher if Minato was any point. While it had to do with Minato's own talent more, if Jiraiya stuck to actually training him rather than learning to control the Kyuubi, the boy's skills would leap enough. Enough to not get caught off guard by a sneak attack at least. He would still lose to someone he sent to retrieve the Uchiha, that is. Will there be a problem with the Uchiha's body being that of a girl? The boy you took over and modified is a girl, but this changes your long-term plans. Kabuto stated towards his creepy master. It's no matter. We can always do some experiments and use artificial means to get more Uchihas for me to change into once her body breaks down. There are plenty of women that are loyal to me that would not mind bearing those children. Orochimaru stated with a wave, not even caring about the fact the Uchiha was really female. There was a bloody scream of pain from down below, and the two turned. Down below as a hand is thrown one of the combatant's chests. The dead combatant fell to show a blood-covered silver-haired teen who had a dark and evil smile on his face. His eyes glowed red and his pupil is slitted. The scene caused Orochimaru to chuckle, and Kabuto frowned as he saw who lived. It seems Kamimuro's replacement for leader of the Sound Four has been decided. To think the last member of the Beast clan would find his way into my clutches. He will be useful to my plans. Orochimaru said with a chuckle as the boy just looked up at them with a crazy, bloodthirsty look. Uzumaki, I will kill you. The boy muttered as he couldn't wait to fight a certain blonde-haired ninja. Chapter 7. The Chunin exam arena was fully packed with people ready to get a good look at the finishing crop of genin. People from all ready to see what the respective villages were like so that they could see who they would hire. Most of them were rich people or daimyos from allied lands. People that the villages could get out-of-country missions from and potential clients. That was only around 30% of the people in the stands. The rest were either civilians, Konoha ninja or just ninja from other lands that were exclusive to see the exams. They were most likely just the people that failed the exams and stayed to see and get experience from watching. You could always learn a thing or two from watching other people fight. In the middle of the arena were all of the people that had passed on to the finals of the exam. People that were the cream of the crop genin. These were the children that would one day lead their villages and the ones that could become potential chunins. There was only one thing missing, one of the genin hopefuls. Currently, one person was missing and that was Dosu from the sound. It was obvious that this was going to have an effect on who was going to fight who, but they all hoped that it wouldn't change it that much. The proctor was different too. Instead of Hade, it was instead Genma. A jonin of the Hidden Leaf, and if he had any say in it, in the bracket of stronger jonins of Konoha. He was here for more than one reason that he wouldn't tell the genin. He was here because Hade was killed during the month break with Dosu, who was also killed around the same time. It was a rather strange thing for proctors to be changed around during the exam. Alright you guys, take a look. This is the lineup for the main matches. Shiranui Genma held up a sheet of paper with the matches shown on it. As you can see, there will be 4 matches in the first round. Now while the arena is different, the same rules from the preliminaries apply here. This basically means there are none. Matches will be fought one-on-one until someone dies, is knocked unconscious, or admits defeat. However, if at any time I deem that a fight is over, I'll step in and end the match. Is that understood? The genin all stared at the list of matches with somewhat shocked looks on their faces. They couldn't believe one genin missing could cause this big of a problem in the roster. The matches were almost completely different than they were before. Chunin exam finals match-ups. Match 1. Nara Shikamaru vs Hyuga Niji. Match 2. Uchiha Sayuri vs Abaku no Tamari. Match 3. Aburam Shino vs Abaku no Kankuro. Match 4. Uzumaki Naruto vs Abaku no Gaara. Shikamaru groaned as he looked over at Niji, who was smirking. This made Shikamaru sigh and mutter troublesome at this. Well, I guess I could play around. His attitude pisses me off, and he ridiculed someone I know as well as hurt someone else I know. Shikamaru looked bored as he thought that while rubbing back the back of his neck. Sayuri and Tamari looked at each other with rather mean glares as they seemed excited to actually be fighting each other. They seemed to like the idea of showing everyone what real kunoichi could do as well as having a good opponent to fight against. Lightning even seemed to be sparking between them. Shino and Kankuro weren't shocked as they were fighting before. Kankuro just stared at Shino, who was looking forward with his same neutral expression. He sighed as he was the unlucky one to get an opponent that was hard to read, but he was prepared. Not like he was actually going to fight anyways. Naruto and Gaara just stared at each other though. Both of them were, for some reason, were both looking forward to this. Something stirred in them as anger for each other seemed to come. They both knew what it was as their Bijuu seemed to be raging, not that they knew both of them had Bijuu that is. Naruto blinked and found himself looking around before his eyes widened in shock as he stared at a giant raccoon with strange marks. Naruto screamed out in shock before falling backwards only to hit something. Said something was fluffy and warm. Naruto blinked again before looking up to see a giant red fox, and he paled as it was not being held by something. The fox just peered down at the blonde before rolling its eyes and looking up towards the giant brown raccoon with a condescending look on his face. "You've got a rather creepy host there, you bag of wind. Messing with your hosts again." Kyuubi stated with a tone that said he wasn't worried about dealing with the giant raccoon, who seemed to bristle at the insult that was thrown at it by the Kyuubi. "Ah, I'm going to destroy you and your pathetic host, you bastard. I will finally show you that you're just a pathetic pile of fur." The raccoon stated back at the Kyuubi. It didn't even seem affected by what he just said, if picking his ears was anything to go by. "You, fox. It's not wise to piss off the giant raccoon over there. You're not the one doing the fighting." Naruto yelled out at the top of his lungs. "Yes, because I will kill you regardless of what you do." A neutral bloodthirsty voice came out and Naruto turned to look, to which he noticed Gaara. "Yeah, right. Just because you're strong doesn't mean I'm not going to kick your ass. Even if you have an oversized plush doll, I'll still win," Naruto said confidently as the Shukaku screamed out in annoyance while the Kyuubi laughed at the insulted Shukaku. Your host seems to be as arrogant as you are, Kurama. Just because I'm the one tails doesn't mean I will lose to you again." Shukaku growled out, to which the Kyuubi just glared at Shukaku in anger. Naruto blinked at this before looking at the two of them with confusion. He had no clue who Kurama was. "Do not say my true name, you crazy bastard. You do not have the right, you pathetic bag of crap. If I was free, I would kill you for that." Kurama yelled out in anger as Shukaku just laughed at this. Naruto blinked out in confusion before looking at the fox. "Your name's Kurama. That's a cool name," Naruto stated with an innocent look on his face, causing Kurama to stop and look at him with a heated glare. "Do not call me by my name, Ninjin. You haven't earned the right to use it." Kurama growled out in annoyance and anger while Shukaku just laughed even more. This just caused Kyuubi to glare at him even more. "So where the fuck are we?" Naruto asked, not even really caring what the problem the fox had with people calling him by his name. Not that he cared about the fox to begin with. The fox was the source of all his problems after all, and he never gave him a reason to actually care about it. "You're in our inner domain where the Bijuu can talk to each other without intervention. Think of it as our subconscious area where all the Bijuu are connected. I brought you here to see what you are up against and for you to understand that you have to win against his Jinchuriki. The only reason you're here is because the bag of wind over there wanted to gloat, making me summon you here," Kurama stated, making Naruto blink at him with a bland look. "So basically you took me away from listening to instructions about the exam because you Bijuu want to have a Bijuu pissing contest to see whose container is better. I should care, why, furball," Naruto said with the bland look still on his face. "Where's the exit? I don't want to be the center of your pissing match. You two do that yourselves," Naruto continued, making the glare at him. "Your container seems like an idiot. Having no respect for his betters," Shukaku said to Kurama with some pity for the fox. "Tell me about it." At least yours is respectful. Kurama responded, making Naruto twitch in annoyance. Mother, can I kill him already? Gaara asked his Biju, making both Naruto and Kurama blink. Kurama exploded in hysteria while Shukaku seemed to blush, if Biju could blush, at this. Can Biju have kids? Naruto asked, making Kurama stop laughing and stare at the blonde with a deadpan and a sweat drop. He couldn't be that stupid, could he? He didn't even know if he should justify that idiotic question with an actual answer. Naruto's question wasn't answered as pain shot through his face, causing him to return to the real world. Itai. Naruto screamed out in pain as his field of view was filled with Sayori, who did not look happy at all. Her scowl was an indicator. Naruto tilted his head at this as he wondered why those two Biju were having a pissing contest and why he had to be involved. Now there was another reason for Gaara to want to fight him and kill him. Also, why the fuck did Sayori just punch or slap him? What was that for, bitch? Naruto growled out in annoyance as he didn't like getting hit for no reason. Get off the field, flake. The first match is about to begin and you're in the way. Stop daydreaming of your boyfriend over there and get moving. Sayori growled while pointing at Gaara, who was no longer in the place he was in before. Fine. No need to get pushy, Haim-chan. I also was figuring out a way to beat the Sandman, or are you worried I forgot about you and were jealous I wasn't staring at you? Naruto said with a smirk on his face while Sayori bristled by this comment. Who the hell would be jealous? Just get off the field before I beat your ass up to the stands. Sayori said with a red face while Naruto just laughed and headed up towards where the contenders were supposed to wait for their match. Sayori was hot on his heels so she could hurt him for that comment. They're pathetic. Still, it feels like I gotta trade up with you losers. I just got one that's slightly smarter than the last one. Neji stated as he looked at the scene before him before looking at Shikamaru, who just yawned as if he wasn't affected by what Neji just said. Smarter than you at least. Shikamaru said back at him, to which Neji bristled. It's amusing to think a loser such as yourself can beat a genius and a prodigy like me. Fate has already decreed that I will be the one who wins. Your defeat has already been determined. Neji said with an arrogant tone, but Shikamaru didn't seem to be affected by this taunt either. Genius? All I see is an idiot with a chip on his shoulder. I've already thought of 137 different ways to defeat you. Shikamaru said back to him with the same bored expression that he always has on. He wasn't the only one who can taunt people. It was actually easier for Shikamaru because he looked bored while doing it, and he was indeed bored. Do you think you're a genius? Your academy scores were about as low as the other idiot I was supposed to fight. It's pathetic to think you can beat me with that one measly skill. Neji stated, trying one last time to aggravate Shikamaru, but it didn't. He still looked utterly bored. Academy scores mean nothing since I wasn't even trying. If I wanted to, I could have probably graduated atop of my class since I was tested and confirmed to have a IQ of over 200. So what was that about being a genius? Shikamaru asked as he picked his ear and yawned. Everyone became silent at this. One normally wouldn't use their intellect as a comeback or boost about it the way he did unless it was actually true. How could someone with an IQ that high do so bad in school? He didn't even seem motivated to move forward with his attitude. You're probably asking why I did so bad in the academy. It's a hassle if someone excels in school. Graduating early, raise in rank and going on tough missions when I like to take things easy. It's a pain in the neck and way too troublesome. Shikamaru stated as he rubbed the back of his neck. Normally I don't like fighting. Too troublesome, but I can make an exception for this. You ridiculed a person I consider a good friend and hurt a former classmate of mine that's been nothing but kind and caring for as long as I have known her. For something outside of her control. I guess I can smack you around for a bit. Shikamaru said with a nonchalant tone which just angered Neji more as he activated his Byakugan. Page seats. Your genin seem particularly angry with each other. Is conflict that common between teams in Konoha? The Kazekage asked with a smirk underneath his mask. He had been amused by what had been going on so far, and this just seemed to amuse him even more. Not normally. There was just a problem with what has happened in the prelims that some of my genin are not too happy about. The Sandame stated as he looked to the Kazekage and tried to figure out why he brought this up now of all times. Did he think that Konoha's forces would be weakened by something like this? Neither of them are trying to kill the other. Conflicts between rivals breed good experiences that help grow the individuals. Disagreements can lead to understands and from that, friendships can bloom. Sarutobi stated, which got a mirthful laugh from the Kazekage. Or it can lead into disaster and hatred. The Kazekage responded and Sarutobi twitched slight at this. That is also true. He said back to the man with a neutral tone as to not portray anything. I'm surprised that the fights were changed around a lot from just one missing member. Did something happen to the missing competitor? The Kazekage asked with a curiousness about him. He dropped out at the last minute. We decided to mix the matches up more and leave it up to chance. In the field, you can't expect anything as the situation could change to something completely different. They should have anticipated that they could fight the others. This is a tournament and they can't always expect for things to be laid out for them. Sarutobi stated as he lied about Dosu. Can't have other nations knowing 2 people died during such an event and without reacting in time to stop the deaths from even happening in their own village. No, I actually think that is a good idea. I'm surprised you thought of it so quickly. What you said is indeed true. I'm just slightly disappointed that my son Gaara won't be fighting the last Uchiha. I wanted to see how an Uchiha faced up against him. The Kazuki said, which sent of warning lights in Sarutobi's head. From Jiraiya's reports, the Kazuki didn't think of Gaara as a son no matter the circumstances. He's also interested in Sayuri. You might be a good actor Orochimaru, but you should do more research on who you try to impersonate. This also does not bode well if he has tricked the sand though. Sarutobi thought to himself as he tried to figure out how to get this information out to his men to further prepare. He needed to work fast and subtly. I suggest we hold on to our conversations till later. The matches are about to begin. Sarutobi said to his other cage as so he could think. He didn't have much time to work. Chapter 8. You sure Shikamaru is going to be alright? I don't think I have ever seen him do anything but sleep. Sayuri stated as all of the candidates went to the waiting box and looked over the ledge. She didn't even think for a second that Shikamaru could actually win this battle. She always thought of him as a lazy loser that wouldn't really amount to anything really. Naruto looked over to her as he leaned against rail. He could already tell what Sayuri was thinking towards Shikamaru. It wasn't that surprising considering she was gone for his fight and the way he acted in the academy didn't sway her opinion of him. Out of every competitor, he is the one I wouldn't want to fight the most. Naruto stated with a serious tone as his facial features were shaped into a face that was eerily similar to a fox's. Sayuri blinked at this as she would think he wouldn't want to fight Gaara or her. Why the hell would you think that? The guy is so lazy I'm surprised he made it this far. Sayuri said while pointing at the guy who was yawning while talking to Neji, who seemed to be getting riled up. Shikamaru is the smartest person I know, probably smarter than Haddock-sensei. He has seen Neji and everyone's fight, which means he probably already has a plan to beat all of us. The only weakness Shikamaru has that I can think of is a lack of stamina. Naruto stated with complete confidence in him. Sayuri on the other hand just blinked before scoffing at the thought. Shikamaru being smarter than Kakashi. Naruto was definitely exaggerating. Even if he did have plans to beat them, they had been training a month and their skills definitely increased to which he couldn't account for. Naruto just stared at her with an amused look. She would figure out how good Shikamaru could be during the fight. It wouldn't be an easy one at that, but he was sure Shikamaru could pull it off. The man was smart and he trusted him on some level. That showed much in Naruto's opinion though she didn't know that. Arena floor. Hajime. Genma stated before disappearing so he wouldn't get in their way even if he wouldn't with his skill level. The two didn't even move though and they just continued to stare each other down. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something to happen while they seemed to be waiting for the other to make the first move. Shikamaru started to flip through hand seals before taking out a bunch of kunai and throwing them at Neji. When they got close to them, Neji either batted them away or dodged him. Neji noticed Shikamaru's shadow flying forward towards him. He didn't even need to wait for a reason or to wonder, he had seen what Shikamaru's shadow did during the preliminaries and even if he doubted there was anything Shikamaru could do to him even if he was captured. Neji started moving only for his eyes to widen as the thick shadow split into 8 different threads that flew at him from different angles. Neji stopped his sideways running before dodging the threads with a high amount of speed. He had to take in where his shadow was so he didn't get caught before he seemed to move out of range. Neji blinked at this before a kunai barely missed him. Neji stared as Shikamaru's shadow retracted back to him. He was trying to keep Neji away from him, smart decision if he did say so himself. Fighting Neji in close range was completely idiotic and he was pelting him with kunai. He was trying to keep him on his toes so that the stress would build up he could be attacked at any second. Interesting, keeping me at long distance. You have already given up the close range battle. You do know I'm not using my Byakugan yet? Neji said with an arrogant smile. He didn't admit that he was concentrating on his shadow more than on him which almost allowed him to get hit by a kunai. Did you think you were the only one that had a long distance attack? Neji brought his hand back and seemed to have his hand in a palm strike-like form. Kusho. Neji stated before the air seemed to travel around something after he threw out his palm strike. Shikamaru's eyes widened as he rolled out of the way from the blast of chakra. When Shikamaru rolled back to his feet, his eyes widened as he looked up to see Neji come barreling down at him. Neji hit him, but Shikamaru was already in mid-roll which allowed him to get a miss from his tenketsu. Neji smirked as he charged forward again, a kunai came at him again. Neji dodged but as he was off balance, Shikamaru's shadow came towards him again. Niji dodged and rolled before jumping away again as another shadow came at him from another angle till he got out of range again. Shika smirked while standing up. Man, this is a drag, but the increase in your skills is to be expected. You never used a long-range skill, but I've heard of a Hyuga skill that does have a long range. I doubt that was all you worked on though. You also need a defensive skill and the only one I know of enough is the Kaiten. I've taken into account both of these skills, but it is definitely harder to deal with them than I have planned out. Shikamaru stated with a yawn as he looked really bored again. He planned this out and took into account both skills. He wasn't even sure Niji had them and he planned out just in case. Did he think this was actually going his way? All he has done is waste his chakra while he hasn't even hit him at all. How arrogant of a loser like you. Even if I had the Kaiten, you think you can beat it? Beating me, mind you, is way out of your league, that it's pathetic you even think that. Niji said in response to this before his Byakugan activated. It's about time I put you in your place. Shikamaru responded by taking out a kunai, his last kunai. It seemed if his quick grab pouch was anything to go by. Shikamaru threw it with pinpoint accuracy before making hand seals. Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shikamaru said as his kunai turned into 20. Niji had to roll his eyes at this. Did he think he couldn't deal with this many kunai? Most of them weren't even going to hit him. Wait, something about this was off. Kunai and the Kajimane were the only things he was using. It meant that they were the only skills that would help them. If he was using something that was failing and seemed to use them either to attack or as distractions, this mean there was more. Takra raced along the floor, infused in his shadow again. The shadow bounced off all the shadows of the kunais before spreading out again. It was a trap and to also extend his shadow. He had to act fast as he couldn't dodge in time. Chakra exploded from around him before he started spinning. The kunai bounced off the shield and the shadow seemed to have stopped advancing before retracting. Niji stopped spinning after the threat was going before jumping back some more. He wasn't going to get caught off guard by his shadow again with the time lag he had after his Kaiten. Niji stared though as he didn't seem to be making a move. He didn't seem to have any kunai anymore and his shadow didn't reach. Both techniques were just wasting his chakra while Niji was still good to go. His shadow wasn't fast enough to catch him, but it could spread out and trap him. Shikamaru had kept him at a good distance, meaning his wasn't confident in his taijutsu. All Niji had to do was go in fast and hard. Shikamaru would lose the close-range battle if his Kajimane wasn't fast enough to catch him, and while he wasted chakra activated the attack over and over again. Niji threw 3 Kusho blasts at Shikamaru, knocking him off balance while he dodged and distracted him. Niji used his superior speed to get within distance of him. Niji saw a flicker as his hand speared into Shikamaru. A poof of smoke appeared as a log went flying out of it. How are me pathetic, do you think I don't know where you are? Niji stated before turning in the way Shikamaru was now standing as a shadow came at him again in multiple directions. Niji scoffed at this before doing another Kaiten. The shadows stopped before retracting. Niji stopped spinning and looked at this. So I was right. Even if it's shadows, it can't pierce the Kaiten. It still uses chakra to capture a target. Niji thought to himself before blinking as something came into his view. Niji felt pain in his back as something dug into it. His eyes widened as a kunai drilled into his back. Impossible, it must be a fluke. Niji thought as he couldn't believe a loser like Shikamaru landed a hit on him and from his blind spot, no doubt. Shikamaru smirked as he had a feeling there was an angle at which he couldn't see. He had seen Niji react differently to one of his shadows while dodging that seemed like he didn't know it was there until he shifted his line of sight. He always wondered why they always boosted about near 360 degrees of sight instead of a full 360. There was indeed a blind spot. Niji growled as he concentrated on in front of him before smirking as Shikamaru came running at him. Was he an idiot? It seemed like it was a fluke after all. He didn't know how Shikamaru threw the kunai at him and he didn't care. He got into a stance as he would send Shikamaru into his fate. Up in the stands. Has Shikamaru lost his mind? He sucks at taijutsu and yet he's running straight into a Hyuga who is a prodigy in the art. Ino yelled out in shock, to which she heard a chuckle from next to her and she turned to her pink-haired friend who found something amusing. Do you think this is funny, billboard brow? Shikamaru is going to get demolished. I've played shogi against him once. I doubt he is going to get into close range without a plan and I have an idea of what it might be. He did it against me and it annoys me how far he thinks ahead. I'm more surprised that he's actually trying to beat Niji in a fight. Sakura stated to Ino, to which Ino blinked at this before looking back down to the field. While Shikamaru might be a relaxed guy, he doesn't take well to having his friends get made fun of. He also dislikes the fact that Niji hurt a comrade of his and someone from the Hidden Leaf, no matter the reasons. He's always been like this. Choji stated with a chuckle as he finished a bag of chips and opened up another one. I hope you're both right, cause Niji will demolish him in close range. Ino said with worry as she looked like she was praying for his safety. While she might rag on him a lot, he was her comrade and teammate. It was only natural despite how they acted. Back to the fight. This is going to hurt. Shikamaru said as he got within Niji's attack distance. Niji fired off some strikes which nailed Shikamaru as he pulled out some tags and let them go. Niji saw the tags, cutting off his attack and switched to defense as Shikamaru was sent rolling back from the strikes. 3 explosions went off sending up dirt and smoke, but it was instantly cleared by the dome of spinning chakra. Shikamaru sat up on his hands rather shaky as Niji had closed some tenketsus. Shikamaru however was staring at the dome as his head moved with it. 1 2 3 now. Shikamaru counted to himself before his shadow went flying towards the dome. A few seconds went by, but the shadow didn't move. A smirk appeared on Shikamaru's sweating and pained face. He had taken a risk with the last part, but it bared fruit. The dome of chakra came to a stop and Niji was not moving with shocked eyes. I can't move. Niji questioned as he was rather shocked. He couldn't believe what was going on. I thought his shadow couldn't penetrate the cane. You're wondering what happened. I made it seem like my shadow couldn't go through. I used the earlier attacks to find your blind spot, keeping your attention away from noticing it in the process. Shikamaru said as he started to explain what he was doing as he had some burn marks on him from the explosion. During that, I was pulling out your tricks, making sure that you had both skills. Kushos were my only concern, but once you realized I wasn't good in close range, you kept trying to get in your range. I then made you think I couldn't use Kajimane to enter it. Shadows are quite different from physical and elemental attacks after all. You let your guard down thinking me attacking your blind spot was a fluke. Shikamaru stated as they were different. Shadows could move through any crack no matter how small. It wasn't impossible to break through Kaiten, it was just extremely hard. Kajimane was a hard technique to block as it had no real form in the third dimension. It was a two-dimensional phenomenon that could travel under anything with their chakra. The Naras could make it three-dimensional for higher-tiered attacks, but the Kajimane wasn't. Unless Niji had a two-dimensional defensive attack, it wouldn't block it. So you got me. Unless you have something else, no matter what you do I have better reflexes than that sound whelp. Niji stated arrogantly as it was wide known that Hyuga reflexes were strong. Shikamaru just smirked back at him as he made a hand sign. He might be hurt and almost unable to move, but that didn't mean he couldn't still use his chakra with some of his tenketsus closed. Page Kubishibari no Jutsu. Shikamaru said with some pain in his voice as he made a promise to never get hit by Jukin again. Of course Niji would be able to disable him for the most part with just a few strikes. He didn't think it would be this badly. It's true that you do, but I will choke you till you pass out. Give up or I will make you. Shikamaru stated as the shadows started to creep up his body. Niji tried flaring his chakra, but it didn't do nothing. He couldn't understand why as they used chakra to control shadows, but it still had no effect. Could he not purge the chakra at once from the shadows? Why are you going to this extent, risking your health by such a reckless way to catch me? Niji asked as he didn't understand. Shikamaru just raised an eyebrow at this as his shadows clamped over his neck. You heard my comrade and made fun of my friend when you have never seen how hard he works. You called him a loser, a weakling when you don't even know him. That's all there is to it. You would have lost to Naruto as well if you fought him as you are right now. Shikamaru stated making Niji wonder what he meant by that. I give. Niji stated begrudgingly as the shadows receded. Shikamaru let out a sigh as he fell back down and just stared at the sky. He worked too hard apparently and didn't seem like he was going to move. Niji just blinked at him before looking up at Naruto. Shikamaru hid his skills, his strength, but that loser is a real loser. I've seen what that idiot can truly do. He thinks I would lose to him. Yeah right. I'll prove him wrong after the chunin exams. Niji stated before walking away and up to the stands as the people in the arena cheered for Shikamaru. Up in the stands, Sayuri actually stood there with her mouth open. Naruto noticed this and chuckled as her expression was priceless. She couldn't believe someone as strong as Niji lost to one of the lowest ninja to graduate from the academy, even if he was a Nara. I told you so. Shikamaru is the person I would want to fight the least in this competition, and that's why. He plans way too far ahead and it's too hard to put a wrench in his plans. Naruto whined out at the last part while Sayuri recomposed herself and glared at him. Just because you got new clothes that make you look competent, don't try to sound smarter than you actually are. Sayuri said with a growl as he did the I told you so thing with her. Naruto pouted at this and glared at her. So what if he got new clothes, she didn't need to be a bitch just because she was wrong. Chapter 9. DCH, can you hurry it up? We don't have all day to wait for you to finish arguing with your boyfriend. Tamari said with a TCH sound as she started making her way towards the arena. Whatever arguing that Naruto and Sayuri were having stopped, to which Naruto took a couple of steps away as Sayuri glared. He wasn't about to get between their little cat fight. He's not my boyfriend. Sayori said with some venom in her voice at that, and for some reason Naruto felt like he was insulted in some way. She didn't need to say it that harshly in front of him even if it was true. Temari hummed at this before looking at Naruto. Since he was no longer in that jumpsuit, he actually looked pretty good to Temari's eyes. He is wearing a long-sleeve crimson shirt with thick black lines down the sleeves and has a hood. It was open to reveal a fishnet shirt showing a moderate build. He is also wearing black ninja pants and black sandals that go up the shin a little over his pants. But the new clothes, he's not bad. Means the guys here aren't that bad looking in the looks department. Temari stated as she figured if he was worth anything then she could just make him her prisoner in the coming war. Sayori just raised an eyebrow at this as well as Naruto did, but he looked her over. She wasn't bad looking either so he was fine with the comment. Stay away from him you Suna hag. Sayori bit out in defense for some reason which made Temari chuckle. You're surprisingly territorial over someone that isn't your boyfriend. Temari stated with amusement in her voice as Sayori blushed red at this. Also, what's going to stop me if I decide to make my move? The dumb ones are always the best to have as boyfriends. Easy to keep them in line. Boy. Naruto was completely ignored by the two of them. They're so mean. No respect. Naruto thought as he knelt down in a corner drawing circles with his fingers as he has a cloud of depression hanging over him. Why did everyone have to make fun of him because he sucked at school and didn't seem like the most intelligent person out there? You will not touch my teammate. Sayori said again to which made Temari amused even more. Oh so that's your team dynamic. Who knew the Konoha had some rather erotic teams? You and the Pinky must have some great time with him. Temari said to further antagonize her to which both Sayori and Naruto blushed, though in Naruto's case he was like most men and his mind went to locations in his imagination that he should probably stay away from considering his current location. Sakura, from where she was sitting, had the sudden urge to beat the ever-loving shit out of Naruto and hit someone from the sand for some reason. She shrugged before going back to waiting impatiently for the next match to start while trying to get Ino out of her shocked state. Back with Sayori and the others, she was about to retort when Temari just laughed and headed towards the arena, leaving a fuming Sayori and pleasant-faced oblivious Naruto behind. She had done what she wanted to do and made her angry. Little did she know that this was just going to make Sayori try harder to Kaya him, win. Sayori turned to Naruto to ask why he didn't say anything to that before going down to the field to destroy a blonde-haired bitch when she saw his face. Her eyebrow twitched as an anime tick mark appeared on her head. She walked straight up to him, reeled back her leg and kicked him right where the sun don't shine. Naruto's eyes refocused and widened as Sayori's foot left his crotch. His hands instantly covered his lower regions and did the slow fall forward. He smashed into the ground with a soundless scream and just laid curled up with hands over his nuts. All the guys there winced other than Gaara who made note of the weakness. He never had to deal with it since his sand always protected him. Lucky bastard. Sayori huffed as she reached the arena floor. Of course that bastard had to get all perverted over a stupid comment that will never happen. She had never thought Naruto as a pervert even if he had made that stupid jutsu of his. Boys. She muttered annoyingly as she walked towards Temari and the proctor. Finally done flirting with your boyfriend? Temari asked with a knowing smile to which Sayori just stared blandly back at her. She didn't even give a response as it seemed that Temari wasn't going to stop anytime soon. Well, you two seem ready. Genma stated as he noticed the tense between the two. He had seen the styles both had and knew that this was going to be an ninjutsu battle mostly. It would be interesting as well because these two were actual kunoichi compared to most of girls that were in the competition in his opinion. Second round of the chunin exams Hajime. Genma stated before disappearing, not wanting to get in the way and not wanting to get in the middle of a ninjutsu battle that should commence shortly. As soon as he said those words, Sayori ran towards Temari at full speed. To Temari, Sayori was moving as a blur, but that didn't mean she couldn't keep up. Moving her fan towards one side, she blocked a kick that was aimed to her head before pushing her away and then using her fan as a blunt force weapon in a downward strike. Did you think I would be that easy to defeat by just getting within close range? Temari stated with a smirk after Sayori had jumped away. Sayori scowled at how easily she was moving that heavy fan around as if she was holding a staff. She started to move around her in a circle at high speeds again as she was sure that Taijutsu was her weakness, but it seemed she made sure it was at least proficient. It was Sayori's more preferred style of ranged fighting, though she was probably better at ninjutsu. She moved to go into close range again, but Temari wasn't going to have that. While she didn't mind Taijutsu, her preferred range was long. She fully extended her fan and swiped it, causing a massive gust of wind to shoot at her. Sayori's eyes bleed red as she activated the Sharingan. Sayori's speed was hampered by the wind, but she pushed through. As she went, she seemed to move her body slightly, as if seeing the wind blades that were a part of the gust. Sayori moved around and into her range before going through a couple of combos of punches and kicks to see if there was something about her Taijutsu style that she could use to break through her defense. Sayori grimaced as she noticed that Tamari's Taijutsu style with her fan was a defensive counter style. That meant that the Sharingan would be almost useless as Tamari seemed to react to an attack as it came. She would have to lower her speed so she could change her attack mid-sequence, but Tamari was no slouch when it came to speed it seemed. Sayori moved to kick her, but noticed that Tamari was readying herself for another wind jutsu. Sayori let her balance go and fell just as a Futon blast went completely over her. Sayori used her motion and spun around on her hands and side kicked Tamari. Closing her fan, Tamari responded in kind by blocking and using that motion and power behind the kick to jump back. As she jumped back, she gathered a lot of chakra in her fan before sending out in a large area of effect Futon jutsu as Sayori was getting up. Sayori quickly flew through hand seals seeing this and used one of the fire jutsu she had learned in the month from her clan's large library. Not that she told Kakashi she was training in them. Kaiten. Gokumikyaku. Sayori said as a massive wall of flame shot out of her mouth and towards Tamari, consuming her jutsu and getting bigger. Tamari's eyes widened at this as it was a very large firewall and she could already feel the heat. Shutting her fan and raising it above her head, she sliced downward and the whole wall shot to the side of her. Luckily for the audience, Sayori's wall didn't reach the stands, but it got a lot of people screaming in panic. It was much smaller than Madara's so don't complain. Tamari opened up her fan again and shot it back up. Futon. Takamitachi. She yelled out as wind shot upwards, making the large wall of fire follow it. Sayori ended her jutsu as she noticed the fire heading upwards instead of at its intended target now. Okay WTF. Since when can Genin create a massive updraft? Sayori thought, not realizing the redundancy of that thought as she had created a giant wall of flame as she could see the fire disappear a good distance into the air. She had heard that Tamari was good and was able to trounce the Tenten girl that was a year her senior, but come on, this was messed up. Up in the stands. I'm surprised. She was rather good in the preliminaries, but this is definitely high chunin level. She definitely has been held back by her superiors to be on her brother's team. I'm not surprised that your student lost to her. Kakashi stated as he looked at the wide-eyed guy who was rather shocked by this. Hell, he was shocked by this. To be held back this much though, it has to be for a rather good reason for something like that. You don't think? Guy started to ask but trailed off as Kakashi seemed to be thinking on the same. That she was put on their team so she could keep her brother in check when her sensei isn't around. Her technique and skill are definitely much higher than Gaara's. She also has the experience with how she handled that fire jutsu. In a straight-up fight with Gaara not accessing that, then she would probably come out on top 7 out of 10 times. Kakashi stated with amazement over how young and skilled she was. Indeed. I have never seen a more refined element before in someone so young. She must have spent hours upon hours practicing it. The only thing that would cause her to lose is if Gaara brute forced his way through, and it doesn't help that she is scared of him. Guy stated, to which Kakashi was the one to nod this time. I'm surprised your student is doing so well. That was one of the more powerful fire jutsus, and I see you added speed to her training for when she was initially up against Gaara. Her speed and her fire affinity is keeping her in this one though. Guy stated with amazement and Kakashi nodded at this as well. Fire has always been her strong suit in ninjutsu. That one though was nowhere near being mastered. It's based off the fireball technique, so I'm not surprised she got it down enough to be used at the level she is at. Kakashi stated, to which Guy nodded before they went back to concentrating on the match at hand. The match? You're much better than I was told. I thought you would underestimate me and play around more than being fully serious like you were with Tenten. Sayori stated in genuine praise as she was indeed strong. She was just happy that she had the stronger element in this. You're an Uchiha and praised to be one of the strongest genin around in Konoha. There's also a rumor going around that it was your team that took on Mamachi's Abusa and you genin were instrumental in his defeat. Even if that wasn't completely true, I'm not stupid enough to hold back or be arrogant enough to play around with you. Tamari stated as she was now leaning on her closed fan that she had propped up in the dirt. I'll take that as a compliment. Sayori said as there was a poof of smoke and a white-handled Chikudo appeared in her hand. Tamari blinked at it as she didn't think that Sayori would bring out a close-range weapon like that, but she keeps forcing herself into close range, so it wasn't that much of a surprise. Tamari stood back up and kicked her fan back up into her hands and waited. She didn't have to wait long for Sayori to appear before her swinging her sword in basic arcs. All Tamari did was move her metal fan around blocking her strikes. Tamari could tell that she was a beginner in the art, but it didn't help that the white light that followed the arcs of the sword were somewhat distracting. Sayori came down with a diagonal strike which Tamari was readying herself for, but Sayori switched from a forward grip to a backwards grip, delaying her strike by a second or two, allowing her to get behind the guard, causing Tamari to lean back out of the way. Electricity coursed down the blade, shocking her a bit and making her twitch at the slight pain before she brought her foot up. Tamari's kick connected with Sayori's chin, and the two separated. Tamari was twitching a bit, the electricity was quite effective, despite only getting her by a small margin. Sayori rubbed her chin as that had hurt quite a bit before letting go and spitting out some blood. So she has a lightning affinity also. It's not a surprise she hadn't used it yet with my affinity being wind. She knows the basics of chakra streaming, but it's not that advanced yet. Still, dodging her blade is going to be tricky as even if it's not that advanced yet, the effects will pile up. Tamari thought at the small break in the fighting they were getting. Her defense in close range is good. It's hard breaking it without some trick and streaming my chakra is chakra heavy at my current level. Hopefully the small contact the Raiden chakra had was enough to slow her down enough where my speed will turn into a bigger advantage. Sayori though to herself as she decided she would take things out of Naruto's playbook and be a bit reckless. She put her sword into the ground and started making hand seals. Kaiten. Hasenka. Sayori stated as she breathed out multiple fireballs. Tamari just huffed at the rather weak jutsu in terms of power. She would be able to get rid of the flames easily with her control of wind-based chakra. She swiped her fan causing the flames to disappear before trying to see if Sayori had moved. She didn't which meant something else and she turned her attention to where the flames had been. Shuriken were flying at her and were rather close now. She made an annoyed tch sound before fully expanding her fan and using it as a shield. After all the shuriken bounced off, she removed the shield to see that Sayori was gone. Of course she was gone. She noticed that Sayori was coming at her from two different directions. A clone jutsu and considering who her teammate was, most likely shadow clones. Sayori came flying at her from the sides and both slashed out. Tamari though, had jumped up and slammed them enough to make them disappear with wind. Tamari blinked as both of them disappeared. She figured one of them would be the real one. Got you. Sayori said as she appeared next to her. Tamari's eyes widened as Sayori started to go through her Taijutsu combo that she used in the prelims. With the final kick, Tamari was sent towards the ground as she forced herself through the pain as she neared the ground. She used her fan to cause a gust of wind to slow her landing. She hit the ground on her feet before going to her knees and coughing up blood. She heard her brother yell out, so she moved out of the way as a grand fireball slammed into where she just was. Sayori appeared next to where Tamari was getting up, only to get a wind chakra-infused fan to her side. Luckily Sayori saw it just in time to block with her arm, but it felt like she took a giant sledgehammer to her side. Sayori went flying and rolled a couple of times. She groaned in pain as her right arm is almost completely numb. She could only hope that it wasn't broken. Tamari looked over to where Sayori had stopped moving to see her cradle her arm. She sighed as she had time to rest up before she noticed something wrong with looking at her. Sayori looked up as her eyes met the Tamari's. Tamari cursed instantly as she did not like what happened next. Tamari looked around as she was now in a dark void. She looked around wondering something as she knew this was Jinjutsu. She suddenly felt extreme pain from her arm to which she looked down and her eyes went wide as some giant demonic fox-like thing bit her arm off. She was completely missing an arm. She screamed out in anguish as another limb seemed to disappear into another demonic fox's mouth, blood spewing from her left arm and right leg. She bit on her lip before concentrating. This was the thing about Jinjutsu that she didn't like. Even if you could dispel it, it was hard to concentrate because you had to deal with the pain and distractions the Jinjutsu casts on the target. Hi. She muttered to herself before breathing deeply as the pain disappeared. Her mind was throbbing from the exertion the Jinjutsu caused on her mind. Even if it was a couple of seconds in terms of time, it had caused a good amount of damage mentally. Having your arms bitten off by some monster was not something she wanted to feel or mentally feel. Sayori had to be one messed up person to make it, so her limbs were being torn off like that. The foot suddenly connected to her face making her cough out some blood as she rolled over, fan completely missing. She looked up as a shadow came over her and saw that Sayori was about to plunge her sword right through her with the stance she was currently in. Ignoring the pain, she concentrated some chakra to her lungs before breathing out. A small gust of wind to Sayori's face was enough to momentarily stop her assault and allow Tamari to roll out of the way. She kicked herself to her feet before backing away. It didn't really help though as she gasped in pain as she held her head and went to one knee. She needed to end this fast as her concentration was going down. Flipping through hand seals and having one eye closed from pain, she slammed her hands into the ground. Oten. Doryukatsu. Sayori blinked at the name of this jutsu when the ground moved up and then parted underneath her. Since when can she use earth release? Futen. Kuten. A small blast of wind was sent from Tamari into Sayori. While it wasn't that damaging, it had enough momentum behind it to launch her from the air and into the side of the arena wall, hard enough to do some major damage. Sayori laid there groaning in pain. To everyone in the arena, it seemed like neither of them were going to last much longer with how they were going. Damari looked to see if she was getting up. She couldn't risk using more chakra. She had to save what was left and rest up for when the invasion starts. She'd rather not use a food pill if she could help it. She didn't like using them anyways, but if she had to she would. She took out a kunai and threw it at Sayori, who was still not moving. As soon as it hit her, it went right through her. Fuck. Tamari stated as she realized that it was just a stupid clone. At this distance, it was almost hard to tell if it was a fake or not. Give up. A voice came from behind as she had been trying to get up and felt steel to the back of her neck. She looked around to see if it was her sword or not, but she saw it in the ground some distance away still. Good, that meant she had a kunai to her neck. She moved one of her fingers and her fan came flying at Sayori, who moved back. Tamari caught her fan and the two just stared at each other. This was getting nowhere and it was grating on her nerves. She should have won this already and she had about one more jutsu in her. Both her and Tamari were battered and bruised already. Sayori looked like she had gone through a blender with how many cuts she had, and Tamari had quite a few burn marks and bruises forming. Tamari is waiting for Sayori to make the first move. Sayori made some hand signs before charging forward. A loud screeching noise is heard as lightning appeared in her hand. Even if wind was stronger than lightning, she doubted Tamari had anything left that would beat her jutsu in strength. Tamari stared at the jutsu and readied herself. She knew that with the Sharingan, Sayori could dodge an attack heading towards her and anticipate where she would move to dodge if she dodged early. She would either have to dodge at the last second, but the risk would be way too high. She had to calculate things at a fast rate. She had about one more jutsu to her as well. The genjutsu and damage she took would make her slower to react. She could use the last of her chakra to block and allow her time to react more at the last second, but she wasn't sure if she would recover enough to be effective in the invasion, even if she thought it was stupid. She also had taken more damage physically than her. While she might have done a lot, Sayori was more physically able to keep going and last longer into jutsu than her. She was able to make Sayori use a lot of her chakra and with this, use the last of her chakra. She was trying hard to defeat her and render her useless for the coming invasion, but this would have to do. With her out of chakra, she wouldn't be able to do much and her body is damaged. This got rid of a war asset for Konoha, even if it wasn't much towards Konoha's defense, since she was a genin. Hey, being Itachi's little sister was something even if it was just that. Potential is still potential, and it was better to retreat here than get permanently damaged. I surrender. Tamari stated calmly, which made Sayori fall over and laughter to be heard from up in the competitor box. Genma appeared back on the field. He was going to anyways with the Chidori being shown and would have stopped Sayori from killing her. Winner of the second match, Uchiha Sayori. Genma announced as Tamari walked away, still holding her head which was still throbbing. She needed a rest. Genma chuckled as Sayori twitched in annoyance at the abrupt end to her match. She created the Chidori for it to come to absolutely nothing but waste her chakra. Genma just shook his head at the idea of Sayori even knowing it. He wasn't going to let Sayori kill the Kazukiya's daughter anyways, but still. At the point in the match, it was a good move as Tamari couldn't move well enough to dodge it, and with the Sharingan, Sayori would follow her or dodge a counter-attack. It was a smart move to retreat on Tamari's side, then try and go for a win in unsavory conditions. Sayori grumbled at this as she made her way back to the competitor box after resealing her sword. She was miffed as she had wanted to use the jutsu that took her almost a whole month to get and work to a combat-ready state. She showed it, but in such an uncool way. Hey, when did you steal the Kage Bunshin, Sayori? That's my jutsu, dammit. Naruto said despite wanting to laugh at her for how her match ended, but this was more important. We sparred all the time after wave and you spammed the crap out of it. How could I not have stole it? Still, it's better in my style since I use it better. Sayori said with a smirk on her face as Naruto started going off on a rant. She just chuckled at this before walking over to the wall and unsealed a rather big scroll. She unraveled it and sat on a large seal. As soon as she did, she started to feel better as she activated the Fuinjutsu. She would never admit it, but the idiot was good at Fuinjutsu if he could do something like this. Now if he could just make the seal heal her faster, it would be much better. Boy, I told you to use that in an extreme situation, not here. You're wasting my hard work, dammit. Naruto yelled out as he finally noticed what was going on as he looked over to her as she had a yellow film of chakra around her. He muttered something about inconsiderate ravens and not listening to instructions. He worked on that for a week and only produced one. Bitch. Chapter 10. Be ready to go. The white-haired Sannin stated as he looked at his little escort. He would have brought Naruto along but he couldn't at the moment. The raven-haired Uchiha looked at him as she had just walked up to him. A determined look on her face rather than her usual arrogant smirk. She would find this Tsunade and have her save him, even if she had to force the old female Sannin to do it. She wasn't about to let Naruto die after what happened. Rewind to a day earlier. I forfeit. Kankuro stated as he looked down at the arena, causing everyone in the stadium to blink at the sudden declaration. None of them expected something like this. Why would someone forfeit right before the match and make it this far just to do it? Alright, let's get on to the last match of the first round. Sabaku no Gaara and Uzumaki Naruto, please come down to the arena floor. Genma stated with a slightly bored tone as he wondered what they were feeding Genin these days to have them get that strong outside of wartime. Can you beat him, dope? Sayori stated with a somewhat worried look on her face as Naruto cracked his neck. It was probably one of the few times that Naruto actually had a serious expression on his face. He might act and look like an idiot, but he wasn't that bad actually. Don't know. He's probably the most powerful Genin here. Naruto stated truthfully, but he was going to try anyways. He wasn't an expert at reading people's strengths, but he knew the guy was a Jinchuriki. He didn't have any good amount of control of his element if he had developed it. He had also seen what he could do with Lee. He would lose if he wasn't serious. Do you have a plan? Sayori asked as he would need a plan to get through Gaara's defense. Kakashi gave her the play-by-play of what happened during Lee's and Gaara's fight. Even she didn't like what she was told and was weary of him. Nope. Sayori sweat dropped at his answer. How the hell could you go a month without a plan to fight him? If I wasn't getting healed I would beat the hell out of you. Sayori growled as she was still sitting on the scroll. This thing did not heal as fast as she wanted it to. And I have told you that the scroll only works fast if your life is in danger and that it's a one-time use. Either way, Gaara wasn't my main concern till now. I'm the only one that should fight him now anyways. Naruto stated as he never really viewed Gaara as his main concern till the start of the finals. He didn't mean that he wasn't a threat, it's just Neji took precedent, but that plan changed. He would have come up with a plan to fight Gaara after his fight with Neji, and now it was coming back to bite him. He would however do everything he could to beat Gaara now. He had something to show him and it was his duty as a Jinchuriki to fight another one of his kind, sadly. The only one to fight a Jinchuriki was another one. He wasn't going to take the risk of someone else fighting one. He knew the potential of what could happen. He was actually glad that Sayori wasn't fighting Gaara anymore now that he knew. He had felt the Kyuubi's power in wave and that was just a small amount. No one but him should fight someone that looked like he threw that power around without much care. Naruto, are you scared? Sayori questioned as she looked at him. He didn't look like it outwardly, but she had grown to know him more than she had before. She just had a feeling that he was but wasn't showing it like a lot of things that he kept hidden. Yup. There's a high chance I could die after all. I'm going up against someone that could literally throw a monster at me. Naruto stated as he was talking about the Shikaku and the fact that he had an idea that it could come out. He could probably beat Gaara, but the Shikaku was a much bigger problem that he didn't know if he could beat. You better not. I don't want to see anyone else that I'm close to die. Sayori stated with concern as she looked away. Naruto just blinked at this before smiling as he looked back to her over his shoulder. He started to walk towards the stairs to the arena. Well, I guess I have a reason to not lose now. I don't want to think of you crying over my grave. It would just be weird and creepy. Naruto said with a smirk on his face as Sayori bristled at this. She was being concerned about the idiot and he was joking around. Idiot. This will be the last time I show concern for your ass, you fucking asshole. Sayori yelled out as Naruto laughed lightly. Sayori huffed as she couldn't believe she actually felt concern for the idiot if that was how he was going to react. She growled at him, but he just waved at her over his shoulder. That small gesture just seemed to put the sense of dread into her and made her even more worried. Pathetic. Showing care for someone more insignificant than you. Love is a pathetic excuse of emotion as everyone will betray you at some point. Gaara stated as he seemed to have been waiting for him to get down for their fight. Naruto just stared at him neutrally. Well, there's not much to life if you go around killing everyone. I do like interaction in my life after all. Naruto stated with a slightly amused tone, as if the mere thought of doing what Gaara did was stupid. It also seemed to make Gaara bristle a bit. So you fight for others? You have the same eyes as I do and yet you care for others. I will enjoy crushing you. Gaara said with a sadistic grin. Naruto felt a slight shiver go down his back, but he wasn't about to let it get to him. He had to stop him if he was going to do anything stupid like let the Biju take control. The moment I notice him losing control, I'm taking this fight outside the village. Naruto thought as he noticed the proctor about to give the signal for the start of the match. This was going to be probably one of the hardest fights in his life, even with the fact that he has S-rank missing nins after him. Fourth match of the chunin exams, Uzumaki Naruto vs Sabaku no Gaara. Begin. The proctor said before disappearing like his life depended on it. He wasn't going to get between two Jinchuriki even if they were genin. He didn't know if the Biju would come out to play after all. As soon as he disappeared, Gaara stuck out his hand and the sand shot forth faster than it had before. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as this was much faster than in his fight with Lee. Naruto jumped back with a good amount of worry plastered on his face. He had thought about the speed of his sand, but it getting faster with the direction and intent from him. He didn't think it would get faster with his intent behind it. Naruto hit the ground before flipping up to land on the wall behind him as the sand smashed seconds behind him on the ground. Within seconds, the sand came at him again. Naruto speed through hand signs as the sand got closer and closer. Just as the sand was about to hit him, the sand was blown back as lines of electricity arced around him. Raiden. Kopoi. Naruto said as the sand was scattered around him. Naruto sighed in relief as he saw that it worked. "Ah, I got it to work this time." Naruto thought with a laugh as he had never got it to work before. That and it was probably one of the weakest things he knew. Wait a minute, that was way too easy to block. Naruto said out loud as he looked at the lumps of sand that was floating. Ah shit. Seconds later a giant explosion rang through the arena as where Naruto was standing was reduced to a smoke pile. Gaara smirked at this as he thought he got him. He didn't see Naruto move or anything. He failed to notice though that a lot of the jonin in the area were utterly quiet and shocked. Phew, that was a close one. Naruto said as he looked from right next to Gaara. Gaara's eyes widened in shock as he turned and swung his arm as sand arced with it. The redhead stared in shock as Naruto was definitely not where he was just a second ago. "Despite not moving, you react well," Naruto said from a good distance away. He really had no clue what he was doing, but that was a good test of the waters. He had figured a few things about his defense, but he still had to think of a way to get by it. "That defense of yours only reacts to things in a certain about a feet of you. You stay outside the radius, it just sits there. Still annoying though," Naruto stated, trying to seem smart, but it just made everyone's sweat drop. That seemed like a pretty obvious conclusion even without testing it. "Tsuna shuriken," Gaara retorted as his sand moved in front of him and clumps of sand shot out at Naruto. Naruto pulled out two kunai and threw them at Gaara before making a couple of hand signs. It wasn't that hard what technique he was going to use as it was allowed to most chunin and even some genin could use it. "Kunai kage bunshin no jutsu," Naruto shouted as the two kunai become a couple dozen. The two techniques meet and cancelled each other out. Naruto just stood back up and looked at Gaara with a dry look. "Not much of a conversationalist, are you?" Gaara just looked at him with his same neutral expression, but he seemed to have an annoyed twitch on his face. Naruto blinked as he noticed something moving around his leg. Naruto looked down and saw that sand had circled around his leg. This time Gaara made a rather amused look. Naruto was suddenly lifted into the air as sand broke out from underground. Naruto was then thrown into the arena wall and made a good size indent on the wall. He coughed up some blood and groaned in pain. He just laid there for a couple of seconds before breaking out slightly. He looked back at Gaara just to see a torrent of sand flying at him again. This time, Naruto didn't look panicked and just smirked. Orange bleed into his eyes before everyone saw how he got away this time. Naruto just seemed to disappear in a yellow flash. This made the whole stadium go extremely quiet. Everyone from Konoha were wide-eyed as the resemblance that everyone could see but ignored now came to the front of their minds. "Yo Yondaime." One of the ninjas that had seen the Yondaime work in war stated in a shocked tone. Naruto appeared a second later next to Gaara and smashed him right in the face with a strong punch that sent him flying. Sadly, it didn't do much damage as it only cracked his sand armor and the sand stopped whatever impact the landing would give as it cushioned him. The stadium seemed to erupt a second later as everyone was cheering. Naruto, however, lost his composure and started to rub his bruising back. Getting smashed into the wall was not the most pleasant feeling. Gaara sat up undamaged and just stared. Even he heard about the fabled technique of the Yondaimes. "How could someone like you learn the Hiraishin?" Gaara scowled as the blonde was an idiot and a loser in his eyes. To see someone like that use the Hiraishin was something that he could not comprehend. Naruto blinked at this as he turned to look at the non-attacking Gaara. He would keep his guard up for attacks from underground this time. "Hiraishin? PFFT, that's funny. There's no way to learn that technique in a month, no matter how much of a genius you are. That was an extension of the Shunshin no Jutsu that just has the same side effects as the Hiraishin in terms of flash. I call it Senka," Naruto stated with a smile on his face as he continued to rub his back. "I'll tell you about it. Senka is a rather special technique as it requires both wind and lightning affinity chakra at the same time. Creating a special wavelength that allows both to be used in conjecture with each other, I'm able to use the bases of Shunshin to quadruple my speed. Look at where I was standing before," Naruto said, pointing at the wall, and nothing about where he was standing seemed perturbed. That was strange since the amount of force needed to quadruple his speed should have broken the parts his feet were at. Using the Shukuchi method of feet movement, I'm already able to move faster. Add in Shunshin as a base with wind chakra, adding a buffer and lightning chakra, adding a more reflexive nature to the technique. The two together with the Shunshin and Shukuchi give me the necessary power to increase my speed by 4 folds. It also caused little to no damage to the surroundings and is quite quiet. Naruto stated, explaining his technique like he hasn't a care in the world. That's impossible. Using both wind and lightning chakra at the same time is utterly impossible. Wind would just cancel out lightning. There are no Kekkei Genkai out there that have a combination of both either that I know of. Gaara spoke with a sneer as he looked at the blonde-haired orange-eyed boy. Wait, orange? Well, there's a little more to it, but I'm not going to give all my secrets away. I have been told though that I'm probably the only one stupid enough to try. Granted, it's a miracle I didn't make my legs explode or something. Naruto stated with a smirk on his face as Senka was his pride and joy. Well, stupid people do stupid things, but they always get results. Well, let's go wild. Naruto said with another smirk before disappearing. Gaara, however, didn't seem concerned. He already had a good enough strategy to deal with fast people after having to fight Lee. Naruto was just going to be the unlucky person that would be the first to test it out. Up in the stands, Sakura, Ino and Choji just stared at what they just saw. Wow. How the hell did that idiot get so fast? Ino basically screamed out as she looked down on the field as the people around them cheered like crazy. I have no clue. The explanation alone makes me shiver from the pain he probably went through. That idiot. Sakura said with a shiver. What do you mean, Sakura? Choji asked as he was kind of confused as to what was going on. According to what I have read, using 2 affinities at once is a massive strain on the body even for Jonin. It's why you don't see ninja using 2 techniques at once or without a medium. You use twice as much chakra no matter how good you are at chakra control, and it puts a strain on your chakra coils and body. That's why you see different element techniques go one after another, because it's almost impossible to do at the exact same time. Sakura stated with a shocked tone. What about Kekkei Genkais? They use 2 elements at once. Ino asked with a tone of wonder. They don't use 2 elements at once. They create a new singular sub-element from 2. The problem is when you release a technique, you're releasing a hold on your chakra. You have the potential to lose control of the built-up extra element you had prepared, which would deal damage to yourself. However, a Kekkei Genkai makes a singular element from 2 and you only have to control 1. You have no risk of damaging yourself. Also, you need a special trait to be able to create that sub-element. Sakura summarized what she knew on the subject. But studying Sakura, though almost everything you just said is restricted to high chunin and jonin. Kakashi stated with an eye smile. I may or may not have asked the Hokage if I could get some help in my training since you were gone. Sakura stated with a sheepish tone. It's fine, Sakura, as long as you got permission. I just hope you haven't been trying anything that will hurt you without supervision. Kakashi stated before looking down at the field again. He can probably do it easy enough because of how his body has grown. Guy stated, to which Kakashi nodded as they were talking about his body growing accustomed to the Kyuubi. The kids, however, thought something completely different. But starting back up again. Kakashi stated with he pulled his headband up. He caught sight of Naruto, who was speeding towards Gaara. His eyes widened though by what he saw. What the hell is that? Kakashi thought as he couldn't comprehend what was going on in Naruto's body. Back down in the arena, Naruto appeared over Gaara and slammed a foot down at him. His kick, however, was intercepted as sand came up in a protective barrier. Naruto pulled his leg back fast enough where his sand wouldn't grab onto him. More sand came up to form a shield in front of the red head before spikes shot out at Naruto. His foot barely touched the ground before he jumped back, narrowly avoiding the spikes that launched at him. He skidded across the ground as a spike stopped a good inch from his face. Naruto jumped back again to get a good distance away. Naruto breathed out deeply as that was a close one. Blood fell down his cheek as he could feel cuts on both of his arms, sides and legs. This already was bad as Naruto had only punched a crack into his armor which already fixed itself and he had been through into a wall and cut. The blonde looked at Gaara and saw that the redhead had cocooned himself in a sandball. Great, just great. How was he supposed to get through that? Well, he had a way, but he wanted to save that for the finals. He didn't want to use it on this psycho. I guess I could give a shout out to my mom. Nah, I suck at it and it wastes way too much chakra. That and I need to save energy for my next match. Naruto stated as he could use the chakra chains, but he wasn't any good with it. He knew that he would never be good with it. The Kyuubi even laughed at him when he produced the best he could. Page Bunshin no Jutsu. 4 Narutos appeared around him and they all charged a sandball on multiple angles. They all moved out of the way of spikes that came at him and slammed into the wall, but it didn't even budge. He did, however, see something. Naruto, a safe distance away, watched this, and when all his clones were popped, he looked up to see a floating eyeball. So he had something that allowed him to see what was going on outside of that sandball. He could use this to his advantage. Well, wanted to save it, but here it goes. Naruto said to himself before grabbing a tagged kunai and threw it at the ball. It didn't do anything except kick up a bunch of smoke. The eyeball moved around trying to see through the smoke and it eventually moved up out of the smoke. It didn't see Naruto at all. It moved around to find the blonde but no luck. Gaara above. Temari yelled out from her place in the stands. The eye moved up only to see Naruto come down with something that made everyone go wide-eyed to see in a genin's hand. Rasengan. Naruto shouted as the smoke was blown away from the high-powered movement the technique brought. Naruto smashed into the hardened sand sphere and a large explosion of wind shot out from the impact point. Within seconds, the sphere gave way under the pressure of the technique. Once the wall of the sphere broke down, Gaara's eyes widened in shock at how Naruto broke through his defense. Gaara had just enough time to throw some sand at Naruto to move him away, but it didn't stop Naruto from hitting him in the arm. HHHH. Gaara screamed as the technique exploded on his shoulder and sent him flying. It was the first actual damaging hit Naruto had landed on him all match. Both of them went flying in opposite direction, as Naruto's face was also in a look of pain. Fuck, it's like getting hit with a sledgehammer. Naruto thought as he fly across the arena floor as Gaara tumbled and crashed into the far wall. Naruto started rolling on the ground before sliding onto his feet. He looked up to where Gaara was as the smoke cleared around him. Gaara's left arm was shredded at the shoulder and bleeding profusely. He wasn't really affected by the crash as his sand protected him again. Gaara looked up at Naruto glaring at him badly as sand started to wrap around Gaara. Naruto felt a malicious presence as a large killing intent was thrown at him. It was coming from Gaara and it was before, but this was much bigger. He was letting the demon out to play. You've pissed me off, Uzumaki Naruto. Half of Gaara's form transformed into a strange look as a tail made of sand waved behind him. Naruto swallowed with a gulp as he already knew what was happening. An explosion sounded causing Naruto's eyes to glance up to the cage area to see smoke all over them. He was worried for the old man, but his eyes went to Gaara who appeared next to him. Naruto disappeared and appeared on the wall as the sand arm flew through where he was a second ago, with probably a great deal of force. Ahaha, is that all you've got? Come and catch me. Naruto shouted at Gaara as he turned around and stuck his butt out at Gaara. He slapped it a couple of times before disappearing. Gaara roared at that before charging after him and disappearing over the wall. Naruto. Sayori yelled out as she appeared in the middle of the arena. She was about to give chase as she had been quiet for the last couple of minutes as she watched their fight. She was stopped however by the proctor as he appeared in front of her, blocking multiple kunai in the process. Get out of my way. This isn't the time. Leave Gaara to Naruto. Right now we're in the middle of a war it seems. I just never thought that Suna would betray us. Genma stated causing her to look around. She noticed that everyone in the stands were falling asleep and realized that it was Yunjutsu. I don't care. I'm going after Naruto. Sayori growled out as she head around the two, circling around them only to get smashed by someone else. She blocked and skidded back. She looked up to see a silver-haired teen with red eyes smirking at her. Ahaha, Ichiha-chan. You get to play with me. Normally I would kill you before heading off to kill the blonde with that cursed blood of his. However, Orochimaru wants you alive so if you want to help the idiot you have to go through me. The silver-haired boy wearing a black sleeveless shirt and black shinobi pants said. There was also a rather crazed look on his face that sent shivers down Sayori's back. The Sharingan bleed into her eyes as she got ready to fight. What if Naruto was stronger than Kakashi? Chunin exams end here and thanks for watching my video till the end.